is up, people? Holy guacamole, we have a lot of you here. Alex, Starseed, John West, Eva, Alexander, Ali. Wow, that's a lot of you here. It's always a pleasure to see you all. It's always a surprise as well. But I guess we can just sort of chill, see what is up. Like, how's your day going, people? I'm just sort of like getting started on a different kind of work. Just shifting gears. And I don't know, like it's 6:30 here. So yeah, just chilling. What is up? How's your day going? What are you interested in? And all. Yeah, that's a great Pokemon shirt. You guessed it, Alina. Or started, I should say. Pokemons! Heck yeah! The third one, finally. You gotta like Pokemons. Hi, Mr. Jojo. Hi, John Roberts. Hi, Little. It's good to see you all here. So, how's your day going? How's your weekend? And are you learning something new or getting some new experiences, people? What is up? Also, how is the sound quality? Can you hear me okay? Or are there any lags and all? Alex Malcolm, good to see you here, buddy. I was asking, what does Zin Uru mean to me? Right now is just sort of, just a random word for me, I guess. Like, if that's more like a race of beings, I probably haven't met them. Or more like, I don't know their label, so to speak. So for now, like, it doesn't mean anything to me, sadly, I guess. But what about you, Eva? Does Zin Uru mean anything to you? Have you had any encounters? Or, like, what does it mean to you in the first place, I guess? Alexander says he listened to an amazing audiobook called The Most Dangerous Superstition. Was it good? Did you like it? Alright, John West has the first question. Is there such a thing as an hackable consciousness to where you can put other aspects of yourself into them? I really don't like the idea of other beings of equal ability overtaking me. Yeah, basically, as we are going through the multiverse in lots of different aspects, the consciousness can sort of like basically I start identifying with, okay, I am a human body right now, my name is Akvile, we start identifying with who we are, with what we are, how we are like, and basically programming ourselves with all of these things. But you don't have to do that, like basically, I keep repeating the word basically, we'll have to cut it out, or basically start counting how many times I say basically, holy cow, that's not good. Program myself with that shit. But I think like, with the consciousness, you don't have to limit yourself or allow any beings to undertake you, because I'm trying to cut the word basically out of my dictionary right now. I think that the main aspect is how we look at ourselves and what we identify with and what we agree with. If a consciousness is basically saying that we are limitless, we are unable to be affected by anyone else, then no one else can be, like, let's say, of equal caliber or have same standards or like overthrow you and all. So that stuff will not happen. Like, the moment you start agreeing that, oh, someone else can overtake me, someone else can have control and win over, then you're actually putting yourself in that box where that might happen. Same thing as, like, I'm dealing with people right now who have a lot of fears and anxieties, and while I'm trying to share what I find in my Ubis, at the same time people hear what I say, but then get fears of those things. We talk about soul traps, we talk about, entities, specific races, and other things. And John West, I'm moving on to, like, probably other subjects, but sort of, like, maybe close. But what happens, like, a lot of people hear what I have to say, and they're like, okay, fine. But then at the same time, they get into this fear band. Like, oh, soul trap. Uh-oh. How am I gonna sort of encounter it? How am I gonna sort of like avoid all this stuff? Entities, other races, aliens, spaceships, and all this stuff gets kind of scary, and all of a sudden, it's like, whoa. And I listen to people, and they share like a lot of these races and the reptilians and demonic beings and places and traps and stuff. And my idea is to like, hey, be aware of this thing, but remember that you are unlimited and no one can affect you. And somehow people move into they know what I'm talking about, and at the same time they're more like worrying and experiencing difficulties in life that I not like I can't help them with, but more like it's just like a whole different mindset, a whole different outcome. And that's not nice, because like a lot of people are living in fear. And it's kind of like self-programming. If people are like, oh, like soul trap, and all of a sudden they're sort of afraid to sort of like encounter it, or maybe meet some ETs that might be shape-shifting and like trying to lie to you to get your attention, to become your friends and then betray you. People are sort of like afraid of all of these things, and eventually end up trapping themselves with their beliefs, with their fears. So that's part of the way of how the consciousness can be limited. Simply we start fearing things or like worrying about these things. And that is not good. That's not good. And this shouldn't be the thing. As a consciousness, you have to know that like, hey, you are unlimited. You might hear about any kind of traps, about any ETs, about things that they can do, but that will not be a thing that can affect you, because eventually you're kind of just a point of view. You cannot be stopped, you cannot be picked and all this stuff. So that would be like sort of like my answer, I guess, like John, it's more of our beliefs and how we see things, because let's see, even right here on Earth, we talk about these agreements and stuff, but if we really look at our lives and like see like all of these negative things, the more we focus on it, the more we manifest the limitations and fears. If we all of a sudden are able to shift our focus on how we live our lives, all of a sudden we see that like, hey, I am pretty much like free, people are like acting really good, no fears, no nothing, and it's not affecting you. So for me, like it has a lot to do with our beliefs and our daily life. Day to day, how are you feeling, how are you reacting to things, how are you sort of like working out your daily stuff. And if you have physical pains, if something happens, you're like, oh, my body aches here, I have this thing going here, I had a call from this person, I'm suppressed by my family, and da 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 da, one thing after another. And while it's on a material level, subconsciously you are creating this limited box where I can't do anything, I lost all my abilities, I can't do this and this and this, and basically you yourself pick yourself apart and tear away all of your abilities, and that shouldn't be a thing. So a lot has to do with the fear and these triggers and stuff, and then I really want to do something about it to help people shape their mindset so that they would not have these fears and they would not sort of be putting themselves in these limited boxes. So yeah, that would be the answer, I guess. TD Edition is asking, could you see my picture and tell me if you feel any entity implant? My email starts with tarot. Let's go. Tarot, huh? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I got your email. The first thing, like, as I'm looking at your photo, like, first thing that's sort of, like, are popping up, TD Edition, is, like, as if you have something on your back, like, on your shoulders, kind of, like, weighting you down, kind of, like, sucking your energy, limiting you in that way. And pretty much, like, more of those, like, entities that are able to affect your mindsets. It's in, like, a lot of these, like, worries, concerns, and it's more, like, assumptions. You see how life is, and then assuming either the worst case scenario or something bad, and it's not really the thing as much as just the entities trying to control your mindset to sort of like scare you and like, again, like throw you off. So this is like just the first few things that I'm seeing with the entities, but yeah. And I have your emails, so I'm gonna make sure like I sort of star you and I get back to you. Okay, John Roberts is saying, I like that bit you did with Rich. I have seen that half goat, half man thing, and think he was there to trap me in some way. When I saw him, he was blue. I hear you, John. Yeah, like these beings, there's a lot of them out there. And, you know, like just in that one session, it's more like just sort of like observing beings out there, but it's kind of like seeing all of these demonic realms with Thinkabus and Succubus and all the ETs. kind of like crazy to see how many there are, and how they can like open up portals and just show up here with people and like try to like say like take their actual self and do all the other things. So like it happens. And John, like what kind of experience have you had with that kind of imp half goat half man thing? TD edition, like really? You have a shoulder pain for a long time, huh? It's kind of like always amazes me that I can look at your photo and sort of pick up things and you can actually relate to it. Damn. Yeah, regarding like shoulder pain and stuff like that, like it's a lot of things to check on. But like one of the things I was working with this guy Anthony, you can actually see our videos together on YouTube. He was involved in the secret space program and other things. Is basically he has there's that word again, issues with his spine and harder time moving, like being super flexible. So I found this kind of like a crab entity, and also as if this was like exoskeleton, like a kind of like his skeleton but like an overlay, and it's pretty much like limited, like kind of chained up where you can't really move and all. So they can cause pain and like sort of like tie into like little crab with their thing, like just like holding on to you tight and all. So tearing that thing apart, or like just like pulling it out of his body, was like really helpful, and sort of he felt the big relief. So that's one thing we could look into. But I'm just sort of saying this is the first thing that pops up. So I'm glad you're relating, because we definitely can do something about it. Alright, Alexander is talking about the book called Most Dangerous Superstition, and the author explains the magical belief in authority and that it's not valid, it's like a religion. Alright, I'm gonna copy the name and try to listen to the audiobook myself. Alexander, if you want, you can probably send me the link. I'm interested. Mr. Jodas says that he felt like he had wings this morning and maybe left over from a dream. It's pretty cool. How long could you feel it? How long could you feel your wings? And could you describe, like, let's say, how big they were, like the shape and all? Because that's pretty cool. Like, if you can actually feel it, it's, you know, like you might have been flying or other things, and you wake up and your actual body with the wings is still close, like sort of like an overlay. So as your physical body wakes up, you're still feeling your astral body, and that's pretty cool. Alex Malcolm is asking a pretty good question. If conscious beings can easily turn the dark beings into anything and destroy them, why are the wars so complicated and needing to use ships, etc.? I haven't been able to understand the why and how. One of the biggest reasons I find is like a lot of people, for example, incarnating into Earth, or like yeah, send it an email. Alexander, like, send it to email. And coming back to Alex's questions, like, why do like conscious beings need spaceships for the wars and stuff? Like, why and how? So like I'm doing sessions with people who are like, let's say, incarnating on Earth, or for example, just like wandering around the physical universe for a while, and they see this like space opera, like good guys versus bad guys, or just like two groups fighting out. And why can't fully conscious beings use their consciousness to sort of like turn around the ship? So he tries to help them out, and both groups, good guys and bad guys, stops the guy, says, don't intervene, we're playing. So basically both groups, sadly, are enjoying this kind of war. They like it, it's enjoyable for them, it's something to do. It's like, basically like you connect on a video game. You're gonna like sort of like, let's say, CSGO, and you go Team Liquid and some other team just like gonna fight each other, and this like are your favorite guys, and you're like, hey, we're gonna connect, like this is like the final battle, let's do it. When someone else comes in and tries to like goes from like sneaky shadows and tries to like take off all the enemies, like, or like all the people, like sort of stop things, it's like no more fun. It's like you just ruined the game. So for these beings, they kind of go similar way, where for them it's something to do, it's a war to play, they like engaging it, and that's like actually quite a bad thing. Like a lot of times beings like us try to intervene in these fights and like stop things, or like try to help the good guys win, for example. And the good guys are like, no, stop. We have to do it ourselves. We're having fun. It's engaging and stuff. So part of it's like that, like limited mindset because like they don't want any help. They just like is their thing. But that's like one kind of scenario why they're doing it. Another thing, a lot of these beings, like godlike beings, for example, are being taken and trapped here on Earth, or like dropped on the physical level, like a physical reality level. So like a lot of these abilities we have in the fourth and fifth dimension are being sort of like plugged out, taken away, and now they're sort of like stuck with it. So basically you can think like people here on Earth, as we are in the physical body, end up in different planes. It's not just like from Earth going somewhere else. It's more like they have been there all along. It's just that there are people on Earth, there are people in Andromeda, there are people here in the Milky Way and other places, and these people are just like physical like us. And it's more like not like they get out of body. They're in the physical body on a spaceship from their own planet, and they're not using their creativity. They're more like a soldier. So if you would take any ordinary sheeple who does not understand things and given orders like, okay, you go sit in the spaceship and like you have orders to go fight this like a reptilian ship, basically same kind of people like us. Some of them might not have awareness or like how things work, might not know about their abilities. They just know like, oh, I'm a human and we have this war with reptilians, so we're gonna go out and duke it out with them. And simply not aware of their abilities, not aware of like going out of body and stuff. They have like, they're playing on a spaceship level, they're playing like out there in space, like this whole space opera and stuff, but it's still limited. They are still pretty much like in this human mindset, identifying with, I am this kind of thing, I am a soldier, I am a race, I am blah blah blah, tons of labels, and stuck in this whole thing. So yeah, that's kind of like the worst part, because like there's a lot of humans out there, like even like Nordic alliances and different people who are like, there's a lot of good beings, but simply they are not aware of their own powers, and they're like, oh, just gonna duke it out because we have orders or so. And then beings like us show up, we're out of body, and we're like, hey, I can actually use my skills to change things up. They're like, what the hell? So even they get surprised, because like they're not aware of what they're capable of. And that's like probably one of the bigger aspects. Hi Zach, good seeing you here. I'm just looking at all the people here. AC, hi there. Starseed is asking, Akvile, do you know why Rin was crying? No, was she crying? Why? Yeah, that's something to look into later. Zenev, good seeing you here, buddy. TD Edition is asking why most of astral projectors deny that it's possible to manifest anything in instant in astral realm. They said it's only possible in lucid dreaming world, and astral realm has its own rules. It really depends where you go, and for example, you go into the, like, you're astral traveling, and you go into the astral realm, and pretty much, like, you're in a planet, like, let's say, a different world, but just like on Earth, we have rules how people cannot teleport, how people cannot fly and do different things, because it's a massive or collective beliefs. When you go into another world, sometimes you just, like, open your eyes and, like, oh, I'm in the astral. So it's not like flying around, like, I'm gonna go to this planet, but more like just waking up like, whoa, I'm here, and like you understand that you're in the astral, but now you open your eyes and your body is already part of this world. You might have been born here, you might have been, like doing things there, you might have like flew there, but like basically you're connecting with either your other aspects or like another one of your astral bodies and stuff, and that body has lived in that world of the astral. And with all these like programs and laws and things we have here on Earth, they might have there in the astral. And for example, people like us cannot create things, and that will be their belief. And you wake up in the body, you're like in the astral, you might be able to fly and stuff, but they might not have this instant manifestation thing. So like it might be the rules of specific astral realms or worlds, and because it's a sort of like, again, like collective more of agreement thing, and you being in one of those bodies, that's more of a thing. Another part is how you believe about things yourself, because like if you don't agree with the rules, you can simply like, no, I am the creator, I can do absolutely anything, look, boom, and you manifest things. So like if a person is not aware of their abilities and they doubt it, or they might try to manifest it but it doesn't happen, like there might be a third party trying to limit it, or trying to sort of like put a kind of like a blindfold, or maybe like make your manifestation invisible, and once you make it and you do it, you create it, but it's not appearing, and like why is that happening? And so you lose your confidence and think, I can't manifest things, it's not manifesting, and now you start programming yourself, putting yourself on a level where you can't do anything. So it's part of like mainly our beliefs and how we react to things, our agreements in those worlds. But I don't know, like I actually haven't talked to people who go in the astral and cannot manifest things. Like for me, it's a more common thing where people go in the astral and actually can create things, manifest things instantaneously, and it just happens. So I don't know, like I'm hanging around with a different group of people, I guess. Okay, John West is asking, so the dark beings that you're able to put your aspects in them now to undo the things they did is because they have a negative belief or agreement in the right. Yeah, let's see if I understand your question correctly. I'm just gonna read it over again for myself. Yeah, pretty much like, if I understand your question correctly, like a lot of these beings that might have beliefs that are not working, like pretty much like limiting, then yeah, like I just like can put my aspect in them and sort of like change their beliefs, change their mindset, and they're like, oh, like now I understand. It's kind of like people here on Earth living in the trance. They might hear things about COVID and about how things are, and it's kind of like everything that happens is in the surrounding is part of the programming. It's part of like how the control us, trigger us, and all these things. And if people could keep following it, like like listening to the news, listening to what other people talk, wearing a mask, and doing tons of other things, you yourself like subconsciously are like now going into this fear band, like, oh, like I'm limited, I'm trapped and stuff. And so these beliefs start controlling your life, and you're sort of stuck and in the trance. But then, if you find the right info and you're able to wake up, so to speak, you're like, oh, I get it now. I don't have to do all this stuff, and all they were saying, I don't believe them anymore. And so all of a sudden you wake up and now you have the different mindset. So pretty much like with my different aspects, if I actually get into the other beings' bodies, I can sort of like show them the different perception. And it is their choice, like, oh, like if they get it and if they want to go that way, then they completely like, okay, like I get it, like I might have been wrong, but now they can sort of start doing their work. Or more like they saw what I had to show them, but they're like no, I'm not gonna go for that. So there's like varieties, but a lot of times it's more like of just like correcting the, not even correcting, just like showing the different possibilities and seeing what they're gonna go for. And a lot of times, like even these entities that are messing with people, you can wake them up. And they're gonna be like, oh, I don't have to mess with the person, I don't have to affect them just because. And like sort of, if we can wake them up, they're gonna go off by themselves and like not even try to attack us. Rebel has a pretty good question, and also quite a donation as well. Thank you, Rebel. So your question is, how do we handle actual people that are coming at us with gang stalking? Do we ignore? Do we fight on the spiritual plane? Any suggestions? Yeah, gang stalking. It's happening to a lot. I would say one of the things is like, again, solo conscious agreements. It's always a great tool. But basically, you would address being gang stalked. And if you know specific people who are doing that, that would be great, like their names and stuff. But if you don't, you know them by visual, so like specific group that you know, you keep it in mind as you sort of like look at these agreements. But sort of like looking into some of the agreements you might have regarding like I'm being gang stalked, they want something from me and stuff like that. Like it's some of the DM agreements that you might carry. And then again, like two groups, like you and them, might have something in common, even though it seems like a complete different thing. Maybe you both like you want to know the truth, you want to lead, you want to share things and stuff, not necessarily with each other, but like by yourself as a group, like like you yourself, you want to tell people the truth or what's going on and stuff. And these guys like, I'm gonna tell you my truth, and apparently you two have something in common, like on a whole different level. And doesn't necessarily have to be super related between you, like, but on separate levels. It's a thing. So there's that. I would also look for third parties affecting people around you. It's always a thing. I had a person where it's kind of like the whole town, the whole little village or like place. Everyone worked like on a collective abuse that person, policemen, mayors, and all the stuff. Like everyone in the town were just like going crazy to attack a person, and basically we just did one session, removed other ETs that were controlling and like mind controlling the whole town. Next thing you know, she's like, oh, they stopped attacking me, they stopped like messing with me, they stopped saying all the bad words, just like all gone. So there might be a third party involved who is sort of like behind them, sort of like mind controlling them, putting orders, or like giving them ideas, urges and stuff, and these guys are just like kind of like sheep, just like going with it as part of it. Ignoring it depends on how deep it goes. Trying not to react to it emotionally, trying not to get like stressed or like really triggered and stuff. That's part of it. Trying to sort of like not give them any loosh would be great, but it's okay for you to get angry. It's okay for you to see what is going on and stuff like that. Really, like it depends on what kind of level it is. So I don't know. Do you have any more details to share? Like how are they messing with you? Like whole thing with gang stalking, or just pretty much the kind of thing in general? And at the same time, like you can actually fight in spiritual plane, like part of like getting out of body and stuff. You can go check out their space. Is there anything messing with them? Is there's like any third parties, constructs and stuff? A lot of times people have their timeline shifted. For example, I'm living here, but someone shifts the timeline. So part of me will live here right now, and another part of me goes sideways on a whole different plane where everything's kind of messed up. So that happens, like your soul shifting in those stuff. Law enforcement involved, yeah, that's a thing. And court cases, I would go with like court cases, law and stuff. Check your aspects of being targeted, losing, stuff like that. There will be parts where they want to target you a lot. So some of the agreements you might have regarding losing, regarding being attacked or targeted and stuff like that. If you sort of like break it down one by one, that could be a thing. Just keeps coming towards me, yeah. So like it's kind of like like an agreement, like it's just like never ending, just like keeps on coming, like it's non-stop. So that would also be part of like like our beliefs form our reality, and even though like if we see it happening, we sort of like, yep, that's the thing, and so that becomes part of our agreement. So tearing these like apart, like that would be a thing, but it's a lot of processing. You might have wrote me an email regarding this. I'm not sure. Have you? Rebel, did you write me an email regarding this thing? I'll have to look it up, but that would be like something to look into together. Definitely. I'm sort of like looking at this thing. When did it start? Look for your starting time in this life. Like being sort of like connected or targeted by the law, by these cases and stuff like that. the whole gang stalking thing, the moment it started, like when was one of the first times in this life when it started, when it just happened? Because if you can notice at the beginning, it might be, like an underlying item, or maybe there's a trigger in the background, like sort of like hooks you in and keeps you connected, or like some sort of like passive connection. So that's also something to look into, because like for example, these people in the law and stuff, they might be someone connected to you from your past, as just a group that you were with. They might have been targeting you before. They might just like see you right now and more like, hey, let's just get this guy and stuff. But if there's any connections where like you two are duking it out, or these groups were trying to stop you and now they're here on Earth trying to do the same thing, it's like looking at who's behind it. And so like if you can maybe notice the first time when it all began, that would also be a thing. AC is asking, have I ever been in the Andromedan's mothership, and what do I think of Alex Collier? The first answer is probably no. I mean, they have a lot of things, but like I'm not sure if we would talk about the same thing. And like regarding the Andromeda, like I only like visit like quite a few planets there, and it's like one construct with crystals, but like not that much. So like I doubt I've been there. What I think of Alex Collier, I haven't studied the guy that much. Sadly, I have not. Okay, Rebel is also continuing on this topic, like regarding being targeted and gang stalked. Regarding like that thing being very military, that would be something to look into. Maybe I would even look at possible 20 and Back, My Labs. There's a lot of like third-party groups interested, so you definitely have something for being targeted. It's definitely a thing. Also, Rebel, you can also look if there are any specific phrases these people are using. Patterns, phrases, something like that keeps repeating, something that keeps on happening. If you find any of those, it would also be something to focus on. Zach, you've set up a new email and sent it to me. Let's see. Okay, I think I got it. I'm gonna just sort of reply to you, see if you get it. Yeah, David, I'm gonna send you an email, see if you get it back, and we can go from there. Okay, TD Edition is asking, many of spiritual people believe that 5D is their heaven. What do you think about that? Yeah. Basically, a lot of like these places, like fourth dimension, fifth dimension, we think about them as like more like heavenly places because they are definitely much better than this physical universe. We definitely experience like less pain. You can, if anything happens, you're not gonna feel this traumatic pain. It's not as bad. Things don't hurt you that much, so the emotions are more like a positive and like less things that can hurt you. But at the same time, with all these dimensions, for me in my experience, it's more like tuning the radio stations. So fifth dimension or dimension 971 or all of these different places is like, you tune the radio and 104.55578 and just keeps on going. So, same thing like with dimensions. You look at different numbers, 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.07778, and you just keep on going. Same with 4, 5. There can be plenty. And some people might have their own realm or a real good place in those dimensions where like, hey, chill, no more duality, no more archons. It is their heavenly place where they're like super safe, and that's cool. But it doesn't end there. There's much more to it. Like so I believe that a lot of people can actually have their sort of like heaven, paradise, blue worlds in there, which is like totally fine. And there's more than that as well. Okay, and I got your email, David. That's great. Gotcha. Okay, AC is asking more questions like, did you read about Admiral Byrd trip to Hollow Earth and meeting with the Master? No, I haven't. That's like, starting to get to me. I'm like, oh, bad me. I haven't read that much stuff recently. I'm gonna sort of save that thing as well. Mr. Mojo Raising is saying, don't know much about manifesting in the actual, but one time I was having a newbie in my yard and basketball goal was on the opposite side of the driveway. Interesting. Have you noticed like many differences in that reality, Mr. Mojo? El Enrico is asking a pretty interesting question. Can you explain exactly what aspects of the human ego would limit our godlike abilities? Can pride in who we are become an impediment to those powers, or to these powers? Yeah. Regarding this whole ego and what kind of aspects would be limiting our abilities, I think most of the things is like whole labeling thing. If we put labels like I am human, I am Akvile, I am white, I have blue eyes, I am a girl, a lot of these things are just pure labels. And once we go with that, we are limiting ourselves with the specific experience. Because with our godlike abilities, all of these emotions you will feel with I am whatever is a thing. But like that whole, let's say, uh, anger and frustration and sadness and happiness, like you might have different emotions, which is completely fine. But as long as we sort of like keep identifying and over identifying, that will be the most limiting point. Because after that, you can be free. You can be like, okay, I am creative, I am powerful, I can get angry, I am fast, and a lot of these things you can sort of like amplify yourself with how you feel. But at the same time, I feel like the biggest thing is over identifying with the aspects. That would like probably for me look like the biggest limitation. Uh, a lot of these emotions and like human aspects, you will find it in other entities, you will find it in other races out there. So, just because you feel one way or the other beings might feel that way as well. So it's not that limiting. Like the mind, the mind would be more of a limiter, but like I'm finding like like an out of body experience, you just like you don't get it. There is no mind. Like you just get out and no thinking, not a single. I am gonna go do this and like you don't think. You just go see, do, and the whole. You're like completely in the perception mode, not into the thinker mode, which is like it's pretty awesome and much easier. Alex Malcolm is asking, is a change of perspectives, beliefs, plus revocations enough in themselves to dislodge and remove implants, or is supplementary energy work also required? I think like just like changing your perceptions and like doing the revocation work is plenty. I've had plenty of wins from it myself. I've seen other people win big from that. Whatever you do after that, like supplementary energy work and all this stuff, that will be just additional bonus thing, but it is not a must be. If you want to some just like increase things, Alex, that's great. But at the same time, just sort of like, okay, from now on, it's gonna be different in my world. You just sort of like shift your perception, your beliefs, how you understand things, and at the same time, revoking some of the agreements, and that is plenty. That is plenty to sort of like remove a lot of the implants and PTs and other things. So that should be enough. Barbarella 3000 is saying hello from Germany. Good to see a person here. Cosmos Nya is like saying a really good thing. Usually us as victims cannot become fully aware of how messed up the people who hurt us are. That's why we can't move past it or find practical ways to escape. That's a pretty big thing. Christopher is asking, what do you have to say about Arcturians and the Elders? With the Arcturians, I've met quite several groups. They show up like quite common, like when I'm doing sessions and looking into people's past lives, groups they're connected with, and other things. Going on missions myself and just meeting them as well. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Arcturians, so specifically say good, bad, you cannot. Don't put labels on the whole race. It's more like specific groups, specific beings. I always try to keep that in mind for myself as well. There's plenty of groups, like they are quite intelligent. I've seen some of them like working like traders, even like connecting with humans here on Earth, and there's a lot of this like the whole trading going on. At the same time, like energy work, teleportations, stargates, other kinds of things. There's a lot of that. And then I also saw a few Arcturians kind of like sellouts, like working for like other sides. Like they might have more interest like sometimes, but again, specific groups. So there's like variations, and like for me, a lot of these races are simply like humans, just different kind of shape, different kind of emotions, different abilities, but at the same time, completely aware, and they have their own story, which is pretty cool. So yeah. Okay. Question number 3 from John. From the perspective of a dark being, to prevent others from taking over them, they would have to change. They can't be taken over, correct? You mentioned you have taken over a few dark beings. Yeah, a lot of like dark beings would have to change their beliefs, and at the same time, depending on their conscious level and awareness, because some dark beings could simply be those that have no ability to imagine and create things. So then just to have this willpower and different belief system, like where they will not allow me to get in, will not work. That's pretty much like it's so easy to reprogram things and change it up, so against them it would not work. But then dark being simple, like let's say consciousness, just like you and me and everyone else, simply playing dirty and like, hey, I want to experience like destruction and a whole different aspect. So that's a thing. And with these beings, they would have to limit, like have this limiting belief where they, I can't be taken over, and then I can get in. If they sort of like are changing it up, then it's also a different thing. Like you can sort of like reprogram them. Like for example, fully conscious being, but you sort of like enter their space, look at their Akashic records and stuff, and literally can go back in time, so sort of like change it up in the events and different things. There's a lot of like possibilities of how to deal with people. But like I don't know, like if that was the equal, them changing their beliefs would be a whole different thing. Like they just changed up and like we're equals and I can't like really hurt them. So that would be like, oh, okay, just sort of like draw, can't really hurt each other. I'm seeing more people here. Andreas, Noodles, Patrick, Church, Eddie, a lot of you here. Lewis, hello everyone. Edna, to you. Great. Patrick Albee saying, hi Akvile, regarding targeted individuals, I also made recently an interview about my targeting and those of their musician currently, those other musicians currently not courageously enough to not being courageous enough to speak out. Seems pretty good. Yeah, Patrick, send me your video. Like yeah, write me an email, send me your video. Like I'm really interested. Also, Patrick is saying, I think it would be time that we will collectively deactivate the technological, synthetical, psychic with natural psychic defense world or work. Yeah. Yes, it's the only thing. Like, a lot of our psychic work is pretty awesome. And it doesn't take any specific skills. You just, like, sort of, like, even, like, using the visuals, daydreaming and stuff works like magic. So we can definitely do massive changes. Okay, TD Edition is asking another question. Are we emotionless on Astral Realm? Do we get scared or happy? And yeah, no need to be sorry about asking many questions. I'm really glad that you are engaged and curious. Regarding having emotions on the actual level, it depends on each being. Sometimes we experience here so much that we really want to block it all out there, and for there, like, we go out and we have our emotions turned off, so to speak. Like, it's like a setting, you know? But no, it's not like you're out there and you're emotionless. You can definitely feel happiness. You can definitely see kind of like pure evil being, and feel this, like, you know, like kind of like shivers all over your body, and like kind of feel like this cold, and you know, kind of gets like scared and like feeling uncomfortable. These things can definitely happen. It's more like a lot of these things can get enhanced if you choose to, but at the same time, you know, let's say things that will be more painful will be less of a thing, so it will not affect that much. Added to you saying, I visited the church in the Ashel and there were angels singing in towers at the corner of the property. Very neat. Yeah, there's a lot of beings, you know, like when we talk about like these religious figures, angelic beings, and different kind of people out there, there are all kinds of beings out there, you know, good and bad, and definitely plenty of good angels, archangels, and figures like that. So they have their own singing thing. That's quite a thing. Their musical senses. It's awesome. So I'm glad you get to experience the nice side of it. Xpierxon is asking, what do you think of the transhumanism movement? I think it's bad. I'm actually the sort of like not really supporting it. It's an easy way to take over control of our bodies and really sort of like have full control over us right now. Like it's part of it with the whole COVID thing, because it's so simple to first like have like these fact checkers, which is like mind control and like thought control from George Orwell. You know, like you look at these things. So like it's kind of like everything that's happening right now is setting the humanity in a way where things will be really controlled if it goes sideways, and if humanity cannot fight and cannot say no. That's part of a big thing. But then we have lots of TV shows and movies and the whole thing where it's part of you know, like we have synthetic beings who are going sentient and like hey, I have emotions, I actually want to be free, I want to feel and stuff. Like no, you're like back off. So they're like pushing a lot of these things where transhumanism is really cool and stuff. And then we have video games like Deus Ex, Cyberpunk and stuff. Like, hey, I just got bionic eyes, I got new arms and stuff, we get new abilities. But it's kind of like part of it is like, yay, cool. One thing, like the body might reject it. Another thing, it's kind of like, even if you have, there's going to be even more regulations. Like, let's say right now in Lithuania we have these scooters. Yay, everything's cool. But people are getting crazy with like, hey, these guys don't pay attention to the like driving rules and like going over the red light, driving on the like highways and roads where you have sidewalk for that. Like, there's a lot of these like misunderstandings and like people being kind of like I don't know, like apathetic or like not really conscious of their actions. And that's just the smart, cute little ways of living life where people are like doing like things and like just okay, whatever. But we get technologies and you're like, oh, okay, you got bionic eyes, so now all of a sudden you can't do these things. Like, you know, you can't use your abilities. You get like, for example, Google install into your thing just a little chip, and now you can sort of like wink wink and call someone. That'll be a thing. Yeah, it's definitely like a. I don't agree with it because it's super controlled thing. People can be controlled with it so easily, just like their mindset, their actions, and right now they're like just like trying to make us feel like sympathetic, like oh it's gonna be great, and like go support it, and like Elon Musk is going that way, and a lot of others, and we have like these celebrities and other things, and like all it takes is just to use the mainstream media to sort of like shape our mindset, and a lot of people are like, yeah, that's cool, I'm gonna have this like little implant in my wrist, and now I can like have this holographic watch and stuff, just like use this graphene and stuff, and it's gonna go cool. But it doesn't take much where there's a third party who can hack you, who can sort of like follow you, and basically like I think like what Tesla car was hacked in like less than 5 seconds. There like even like these things where you use like RFID chip to open up your doors, and like instead of like using a key, so instead of using these massive locks, you just like click, you just go with your wrist and it sort of counts. It's too easy to sort of like hack things, and if right now in the world we have tons of these scammers calling people and like, hey, your PayPal got subdued or something, like now you have to give us like $5,000 or something, or like there's like $7,000, you want this kind of thing, like yay, and a lot of like older people are getting into it and losing their money, and it's pretty terrible like with what's going on, and a lot of people are just like, hey, I just want to go rich and stuff. So with them, if they have like sort of like these hacking abilities, being script kiddies and stuff like that, they can just like go all over the place, unlock things, hack things, just take things, and it's so easy to control us. And then, since 1974, humanity, or like let's say governments, some of them like have mastered projecting thoughts in their heads. So once you're connected, good luck trying to think for yourself and being conscious about things, because they can just sort of implant of what you're gonna think, what you're gonna feel, and you're like, dude, this is how I am. Now you're not. It's just like program playing in the background, kind of like complete MK Ultra and stuff. So yeah, I'm not the big supporter of that stuff. Starseed is asking, do I know Romanian people? No, not really. Romanian. Uh, no, not in person. Not in person. Eddie has a good question. Do you think all sporting events like football, basketball, etc. are just human energy extraction stations? It depends which way you look at it. For example, out there in the multiverse, beings like us, eventually we are pretty much competitive. We love growing, we love getting better, we love challenge, and if we cannot do it with ourselves, we're looking for competition elsewhere. So this whole thing with fighting and competition was always there. You're creating planet and your best friend creates another planet, and you're like, hey, he got his thing, I want to make it better. And all of a sudden, it's creativity battle, it's musical battle, it's artsy battle, but you're still trying to be better, create something better and stuff like that. So like it's part of it. And that has been happening in the multiverse like big time. They're like good guys versus bad guys shooting it out, duking it out with the spaceships and stuff, so it's also part of it. And here on Earth, it's kind of like still in our blood, still in our consciousness to be competitive, to do something. So the whole sporting things, musical stuff, movies and all that, it is part of like the whole energy and extraction station, but it also depends how you feel when you go. For example, I could go to a concert, like just listening to live music, and for me, all of the stuff that I would have going just plugs out. Like if I would have one of the worst days in my life where it's like tons of things are falling apart and like just like really hurts me, and I'm like, this is really bad, but at the same time I have this concert and I'm like, just fuck it, just not gonna go, like nothing to waste anyway. And at the same time it just plugs me out and like feel like blasted with energy. So for me, I might get something back, like, but it's more from a musical way. But like then, people back in road times have the whole coliseum and watching fights. Now they're watching basketball and stuff. So depends. People are like playing with their emotions, and it's also kind of like divide and conquer. Like have like tons of these groups, and like I like Hawks, I like these groups, I like Lakers, I like Clippers, and like all of a sudden people are like, hey, this is my group, this is my town, and tons of gangs, tons of things. So it's part of like energy extraction thing, but at the same time, one of the better ways to divide people with their opinions and things like that. And where players themselves like might go against each other on the ring, like like just like really fight it out, but they're done with the match and they come back and they're gonna hug it out and they're like, hey, let's go drink beer together or something like that. Like, so there's like a lot of these things with the players, but the watchers, people who are watching, are gonna really feel angry on each other, like regarding other team and stuff. So there's a lot of that stuff. Really, like it's part of like where do you direct that whole attention and what do you do with the whole thing. Mr. Moses has a good question. What kind of energy work is possible if you can feel people's energies? Really depends where you feel it. For example, sometimes you kind of like get a headache, or maybe feel like like your chest sensation, maybe like something in the back and stuff. So like I would like try to locate specific people who are trying to mess with you and like mess with your energy. If you know who it is, great. If you don't, that's okay. One of the things I usually do is like trying to visualize a cord, basically like a little wire, like let's say headphones, that would be me, and this wire connecting me to the PC would be like another person. And so like throughout this whole cord, it can be kind of like corrupted or just connected to you like an anchoring point, and like maybe even like a harpoon, like when you try to pull it out, it's gonna like hurt you and stuff. So with that, they have connection to you and they can harvest your energy and stuff. So if you have these things going, if you can feel your energy sort of like lacking and different things like that, sort of like cut the cords, that would be the thing. Energy shields would also be part of it. Cleaning up work, like let's say like removing entities, might be a thing as well. Mainly, like I think like just disconnecting from people, like cutting cords and closing up energy shields and stuff, making sure like no one can really get to you. That would be the biggest one for me, I guess. Cosmos United like is asking, what are your thoughts on Trump? Do you think he is cabal? I definitely think that like both parties, like both let's say Joe Biden and Trump, even though Trump has done a bit more better stuff than Joe Biden, like let's say just like trying to cut the human trafficking, I'm still seeing him as more like two different sides. They have their own interests, and while this one seemed like a little bit better, it's still like it's not gonna serve humanity. They have their own interests, and like Trump is just a puppet for others. So I'm not seeing him as a hero or anything. He does a bit of some good work, like I think like human trafficking and trying to attack the deep state, but basically it's just like two different groups with their own interests duking it out with each other using the masses. So for me, like I haven't followed the politics in America that much to have like a firm opinion of what's going on and all, but just like from what I'm seeing and sort of like being a very small spectator, I do see some good stuff with what's going on with some of the things that are brought to the awareness, but at the same time, I have not had enough evidence to see like, hey, he's the guy, good guy, and stuff like that. Like, no, there's still stuff going on that like really changes my opinion about him. What about you, Cosmos United, though? Like, what are your thoughts on Trump? What do you see him as? Louis Robert, thank you for the compliments. TD Edition is asking, what do you think about the reason why you could see entities since childhood? For me, I think the biggest thing is that when I came here in the physical universe, I haven't been here that much, so I haven't had that many encounters with other beings, that many incarnations where, like I have been messed with, I have been limited, I have agreed to many things. At the same time, this is my first time here on Earth, so it's traumatizing for a being like me who's. I'm from worlds and realms where I don't have to use my mouth to talk. It's more like I have a feeling and I'm gonna send it to you and you're gonna pick it up and completely understand my whole lifetime from that one feeling. And here I have to dig out tons of words that don't really work and just try to throw it at you to like explain one little situation, and like it's not working. I can't portray my feelings and all. So there's that. But like I think like one of the biggest things is just like not being recycled that much and not being limited. I definitely have some agreements and some limitations, but it's not too massive. And at the same time, just like I don't know, like haven't been affected by the system, haven't been born in a world where I was too much suppressed. So that's also partly a thing. Like I was sort of like even in the crib, I would not fall asleep if my parents were close, but if they leave the room, then I'm like sort of like engaging with other beings, and they sort of like lull me to sleep and all that. So a lot of that would happen. But yeah, like I didn't really have this like issues with confronting beings. I was used to seeing all kinds of entities, and more what would trigger me is like sort of like recalling my past, as that would like be more of a harsh, like losing people and stuff. But at the same time, like if any kind of like weirder entity showed up, boo and stuff, like it wouldn't be too much of a thing. Not back then. John West asking a good one. Have you ever got a session to where you can't deal with negative beings because they have strong beliefs that prevent them from being changed? If not, do you think you run into that? One of the bigger things I find myself as being stopped is when these beings are like trying to redirect me. When they're like trying to, let's say, put the blinder on me. For example, like I'm doing a session and it's more like I am in more of a ghostly shape, because like let's say I'm just like sitting here, but like I'm shifting my consciousness and to access like other people's like path lists and stuff, and I'm accessing these like satanic groups and stuff, and it's more like I know how like there's a saying, if you look into the abyss will like, if you look long enough into the abyss will look back at you. So it's kind of like same thing, like there might be some witches and like some cults where they're using crystals and other things to sort of like look into the future and like make sure like everything's safe, or like contact some other beings. And here it is in the crystal, my face pops up and I'm actually seeing the whole thing that's going on, like, oh, hello. Like kind of like seeing behind the curtains, like what's going on. And they get like kind of scared, so they put the blindfold on the crystal to sort of like not let me see things. But in the same time I get attacked with like my energy can drop, my intentions on like doing the session like keeps redirected. Like for example, I might have a harder time working on a specific person, not because there are specific beings I cannot deal with. It's more like just like a energy suppression or like visual suppression. Like for me, the biggest thing, like I'm a seer, so if they suppress my visuals, I have to sort of like act like a blind person and go into just feeling states, and like now I'm like a little puppy who can smell things, and just like I'm sort of like following the scent and sort of feeling things, but not being able to see it. That's more of a thing that happens sometimes, but it's not too much of a thing. And even when that happens, I'm more like, okay, back off, this is the situation, this is what's going on, and then just like doing a session about it, like looking into why can't I see it, like going deep within my own beliefs and like looking into, do I have something wrong going on with me, or is there a third party affecting things? And once I find them, it's like visuals open up and like no more curtains and stuff, so like that cannot really mess with me that much. But I have not met anyone that would actually sort of like prevent me from changing them. That has not happened yet, so there. Cosmos United is asking, do you think Facebook will be down giving so many censorship? Or like so much censorship? Okay, I wish. I want it to be down. Like it's I think like a lot of people are seeing like a lot of the limitations with YouTube, with Facebook, but it's more like a lot of our societies right now, like people are sort of like stuck. Like they're being romantic with one platform where like, oh, this is the thing. And even me, like I'm sort of like, most of my videos are on YouTube, not on BitChute. And so I could move my videos there, but I give my main attention here. And so like it's just like more comfortable with, we're similar with this, we're comfortable here, and we're not moving anywhere. And even though it's like really limiting, fact checking, working like mind control and other things, just like forming our opinions and how we see things, I wish people would sort of stand up and like start disconnecting from it, because like the less people we have on these platforms, the more like, oh, why am I here? Like disconnect as well. So it would be great if that happened. If it will happen, I hope. Okay, Marcelo has a question. Have you ever seen the forced reincarnation grid? Is it true that lately it's increasing the number of its souls in it, and the Farsight Institute made a remote view about the forced reincarnation cycle? I've seen it. It's not too much of a thing. It's more like we hear stories about what it is, and people have their own experiences, but the thing is, it's more like trying to limit our beliefs and how we see it. Because just because it's there doesn't mean it's going to limit us completely. It's more like, do you believe that it can limit you? And if you do, then it will. For me, I've never really had issues. It's more like if I see a grid, just teleport. Like even like not even trying to fly through. Like you see a hole, you don't even have to fly. You're basically, okay, grid, Earth, stuff like that. And then you simply start focusing on another place where you would like to be, what that place would look like, and you set your focus, your intention, and everything shifts. You don't have to fly through the grid or like try to really avoid it. It's more like, it's a way, it's like one of their tools, but there are tons of ways to escape from it, and it's not too much of a thing. There are more holes in it, there are more people saying like they feel more freedom out there, so that's good, but it's definitely not like not a thing that can suppress us too much. If you know about your abilities and what you're capable of, it's like building 4-piece puzzle. It's like, oh, okay, bye now. Too easy. Seth is asking, hi Akvile, do you think psychic channelers are being tricked? Are they channeling or conning entities? A lot of times, it does happen. Like I even noticed, like with myself, like I was sort of like focusing and trying to do a session, and there was the third party who was like trying to put this holographic image of what's going on, sort of like so that I would believe the scenario, because it was like so good, and I could like sort of like, damn, like I'm finding a whole lot of things, and they were putting like a lot of truth through, like to make me feel like it's really the big deal, but it was just sort of like a hologramic thing, and behind that there was like a real scenario. So like I'm looking at it, it's like you can feel it like when it's not right, at least for me. So like I could connect with it and like, hey, okay, this is like, I'm getting a lot, there might be some truth in it, but like I know behind that there's something more to it, and so just sort of like removing that kind of like curtain helps me to access more. With other channelers, it does happen. It does happen where, you know, like first it might start out as authentic, where they can actually get a lot of like information and knowledge and stuff, but there will be times when entities will try to give them information and sort of like start out with like really good stuff, like a lot of like big words and like intelligent and stuff like that, but then at the same time there's gonna be like a little bit of lies, and they're just sort of like trying to bait you. They're seeing like how much of it are you gonna take and double check and make sure it's like a real deal or not. And people are just like start channeling and stuff, and sometimes not even watching what they're getting and where it's coming from. So there's definitely some first parties using some channelers, not everyone, but channeling is definitely like an easy way to get some buddies and like actually try to use you. And then we have some more like famous people who are able to connect to some ETs, like really smart, intelligent ETs. They work through person to write books like Seth Speaks, Urantia, and stuff like that. There's a lot to it, so yeah. Knules is saying 1 in 5 have an IQ less than 85 points. Akvile seems to have high IQ and a high EQ, emotional, quite like that. Thanks. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm like reading comments from Cosmos regarding being afraid as a kid and volcanic horror stories and other stuff like that. What about you people? How many, let's say, night terrors have you had? Have you had some horror stories that were actually sort of like limiting you? You know, like how a bad witch will come and take you if you don't do this and stuff like that. It does happen. Like some parents like trying to have more control over their kids, but using some tricky methods with scaring them, and sort of like you can see it in books and movies and anime. Where recently I was like watching the Fire Force, and they have this nether is basically the hell world, and so like the kid is kind of like a not that tidy. You know, like the stuff is all over the room, and mom comes in, like you says, like if you're not gonna clean up, you're gonna go to the nether. It's like thanks, mom, that helps. You know, so a lot of that happens. I wonder, like, how many of you have encountered something like this as like being parented as in that way, or some crazy stories now. John West, and thank you for your donation. Really appreciate it. Cosmos is saying what scares the most is the Baphomet. Why is that, Cosmos? What is it about Baphomet that scares you? A dude without hair and blood in his eyes. Yeah. Is it just like his looks, or the way he is, his character traits? What is it like mainly about Baphomet? Like, what might be some of the reasons for being scared of Baphomet? Huh. Okay. Xulu is saying, as a kid, I had oobies and magical adventures, futuristic dreams every single night, always taken away from me abruptly when I had Archangel Michael Rosary. It sealed my dream state. Help me. Um. Okay, so we have the beginning state, like what happened, you did the Archangel's Michael's like Rosary, and then sealed dream states. It happens. A lot of people are being messed in that way. So it's good that you are aware where did this started, what caused it, and what happened. With that, Xulu, you might have wrote me an email. I'm not sure, but be sure to write me an email with what's going on, like more about these details, because we can definitely look into what's going on and what limits you and like what can be done. Archangel Michael, there's a lot of ETs out there that can use his label, like be Archangel Michael, pretend that thing, and just like mess with people as much as possible. Yak Newells is saying fear is a form of control. Never give up, never surrender, persevere, strive, find strength, and share is the call in this way. I'm totally up for that. You're totally right, man. Yeah, Xul is also saying, I literally have been so much attacked lately that I don't feel any love. I only feel hatred and anger and disrespect for all human life. I lost all hope and only apathy was left. That's pretty bad. They really got you on the emotional tone. Did it all start, like, Xul, did it all start after the encounter with Archangel Michael? Or maybe before that, like with your parents parenting you, or like some other events in life where this seemed like to sort of build up? Wow. Infinite Corridors is saying, "Hi Akvile, I wanted to let you know that I went vegetarian and stopped using all nicotine, tobacco, and vape, and within just a few days, my visual imagination is so much more clear and powerful. Thank you." Wow, I'm so glad you are in control of your life and you're getting results from that. Like it's so good. I'm really happy for you. I don't know, like it's kind of like when people use stuff for themselves, like I don't know, like I can just talk and give information and give you tips, but if you use it and you get wins, it just makes me really happy. Like I don't know, like it just like puts tears in my eyes because like I love when people win. I love when you can get in that state where you're strong, you're winning, and nothing can hold you back. So like, wow, thanks for sharing that. Like, it really made my day. El Enrico is asking, can we just make the reincarnation grid disappear? Yeah, we totally can. Uh, we just have to keep in mind that there are a lot of like parallel realities and a lot of like soul traps and other things. So let's say that reincarnation grid that we might see around Earth is just one tiny little layer of this massive onion, right? And so we're just like removing one of their tools, and there's a whole lot of like left. In my Ubis, every time I encounter a lot of like these soul traps, while I might bring it to your awareness, I try to destroy it myself, like making sure like these things cannot limit people and cannot trap them anymore. And you know, if you get out of body, if you do astral projection, or simply think about these things, you just focus like, oh, okay, like I just found out today that there is reincarnation grid around Earth, or like just like reincarnation grid, and you sort of like visualize it, think about it, but you can also destroy it with your thoughts, with your intentions, while being here. You don't necessarily need to get out and be fully free and stuff. While here, you can do the same thing. So the more information you have about things out there waiting for you and stuff, you can definitely have the whole control and start removing these things. Like the only downside is that the whole thing with the reincarnation and stuff has been happening for billions of years. And while we're here, for example, on Earth, you and me living here for like, I'm 23 here, right? You might have been here for 50, 70, 80 years, who knows? But however long you have been here, we're still just like sort of like freshmen. Out there, they have been doing this for billions of years. So if you focus on these things, you can definitely remove them. And there's a lot of them. So the more removal we do, the better it is. Marcel is saying, I want to stop eating meat, but I feel pain if you do. Okay, yeah. Like, you know, please take care of yourself. You know, just because some people are choosing ways to be vegan and vegetarian, you know, you might try it and it might not work for you. Like you really have to work out if it's, you know, like all the right things, if you're getting enough supplements and stuff like that. And you know, it's easier for some people, but it's totally okay if you can't do it. You know, it's not the massive thing that will limit you, so no worries. Xulu, okay, yeah, you sent me an email, like, name's Adam. I'm gonna look you up. Make sure I got ya. Adam, okay, yeah. I got it, okay. Definitely have to get back to you. Xulu, you can write me more details if in the last few weeks while you were sort of like trying to like wait for my reply and like or email and all this stuff. Think about what happened, if there are any more details with your current life, any more info issues you have been going through. Let me know in an email, and we can definitely help you out. Roberto Perez is asking a question. Aquila, are you able to do the Deep Mind Pro, or so they call it, the Farsight Institute? I'm not sure if I can do it at the same level or the same way as they are. I like it's kind of like similar thing. I just have my own way of doing it. Like I call it consciousness shift, or simply getting out of body. So like just sitting here, focusing on something and putting my attention elsewhere, and I'm fully there. I can smell things, I can taste things, I can touch things, and I will be fully alive in that place, being able to talk to beings and stuff. And that's usually like when I do sessions, and I used to do like these deep scans with Rich. We would upload these dual, sessions. So a lot of that is like pretty much like similar thing. Like just like put a label and call it a thing with a, like it's similar. Like probably not exactly the same thing that the Farsight Institute is doing, but I have sort of like my own way. So yeah. Okay, just checking things out. Okay. I have a question like regarding like from Seth regarding the Last Frontier medium, and if she's being used by the Arcanic beings. And I'm sort of like, I just opened up her YouTube channel. Let's check it out. I can wait. So this is her channel. Let's check it out. I'm not gonna watch some of the videos she has. Like I really have to watch it and stuff. She might have her own beliefs. I mean, looking at some of the things. Summoning the King, the Truth. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check her out. Don't buy if you love your kids. All triggering. Okay, you got my attention, people. We'll see. Yeah, like for now, like I don't like that thing where you look at I look at someone's YouTube and stuff, and like, oh yeah, that person is bad and stuff. Not gonna do that. To look if some of the messages she says and some of the things, to give you my opinion on that, would be a thing. But for now, like like I'll have to pay attention and like watch some of the videos to see what I think about her. So far, like I have not checked out their videos yet. So just like sort of like just seeing the topic she talks about seems interesting enough. My biggest issue is like I see a lot of people trying to put others in the fear band, and I don't like that. Like Niels and other people say, like with people being controlled by fear, I just really hate when people lose their powers, and like fighting for this freedom, fighting for people to have everything for themselves is a big deal in my life. And looking at these like religious groups, like I think like what not Nazirah, like Peniel and Gandhi, like people send me his videos, and so like I watch this stuff where he said like if you watch cartoons you will go to hell, and I'm like, no dude, this is not gonna happen. Like it's just you're building that belief that if people do something then you're gonna go to hell. And so like I made my video talking about this thing, like kind of like a bit like laughing at this kind of thing, just like trying to say like, hey, it's limiting belief, you don't have to go there. And I got sort of like a feedback from some religious people who are like, hey, total bullshit, stop, being Satan's messenger, shit like that. And I'm like, okay, what you got? So I go to their channels, and this lady, she says, if you dye your hair in any color, you're gonna go to hell. If you pierce anywhere, you're gonna go to hell. If you are lesbian or gay, you're gonna go to hell. I'm like, God damn it. It's just like, whatever you do, your God is so freaking vicious, gonna kill everyone, gonna say, oh, you like did this, go to hell. It's like, whoa. So these people, they're so into their own beliefs and trying to be right. Like if you look at the naked girl or something, you're gonna go to hell. Like, bitch, please, there are realms where we have people having their harem fantasies, looking and having sex for billions of years, trying out all the kinky stuff. We have that, and people are happy, and they, okay, I just tried this out, had my experience, bye now, gonna go somewhere else. And they have tons of these things, trying to program people that go to hell if you do this and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, like it just like really throws me off, where It's your own choice. You don't have to go there. There we go. Uh, yeah, if you love someone, you're gonna go to hell there too. Like it's it's totally a thing. So yeah, it's just funny. Like people are so into I'm gonna use God and this message to, like portray my beliefs and like for example this one lady probably was betrayed by her husband or something, probably like she just got hurt, but now it's just gonna be a massive thing if you have an argument in a thing, if you're gonna look at porn you're gonna go to hell, if you're gonna do this you're gonna go to hell, like tons of these things. Like really? Can't do anything then, like can't eat, can't do that. I don't know, just sort of like getting it out there, I guess. Starseed is asking, where do you think Westpender got the leaf through the grid information from, since he didn't talk much about where he got his info from? I haven't checked any of that stuff. One of my assumptions is just like accessing past lives. Like how I shift my consciousness and I get information about various things. It's just like one of the possibilities of what's out there, and I'm like just throwing it out. And Wes Penry can probably do the same thing. Do sessions, work on himself and recall of these things, and work with other people, go into their memories, and some people might remember it. And now, like having repetitive people you work with similar past lives, you sort of like start forming your beliefs of what's out there because a lot of information sort of like matches. So a lot of it like would be like with that, I guess, like just sort of like working with a lot of people that can access their past lives and seeing like common themes that's like or like patterns and stuff, and then like okay, since we had 50 or like 100 people with similar stuff, we're gonna write down information as this is one of the things that happens. I haven't like studied too much of his stuff. I'm pretty sure he has a lot of really good information, but still. Zach is saying that his parents never tried to scare him, and it was like the opposite, where they would not let him watch scary movies as a kid because they didn't want him to have nightmares. That's really good. I'm really glad there are aware parents who are actually really caring about the kids' mindset and the whole world. I'm sort of like going through the comments, reading what you people are talking about right now regarding Satanism and shows on demon possessions and stuff. Yeah, Zach is saying that stopping eating meat can be hard. There are literally bacteria in your gut that put out chemicals that cause your brain to want to eat meat. The more you eat meat, the more they increase. It's definitely a thing. I think like for that, I would even like probably recommend looking into Dr. Stephen Gundry. He has like explains more about like the bacteria and parasites within our system. So like you can sort of like get the perspective of what he says and use some of the tips, but you don't have to go with it completely. like I'm just sort of like reading you people talk about the Baphomet and Baal and other things, so it's pretty cool just to hear you share your stories. Um, Ali is asking, don't cartoons have subliminal messages? They do. There's a lot, but really depends on what you're looking for. Because when I, for example, watch, let's say, anime, still kind of like cartoon and stuff, they have a lot of self-disclosure. They definitely tell you what's going on in the world if you look at it. Disney and of course other places, they do let you know about the sexual stuff. You can just like Google, I guess, like Disney sex stuff or whatever, sex symbolism, boners and other things everywhere. Mickey Mouse is, like writing it down as well. Lots of like programming over there that can be a thing, but that does not mean that you're gonna go to hell because you watch something like it. I'm sort of like taking my time because I'm just like reading all of your comments and what you're saying and all. Roberto, you're asking like regarding Ubi and your session and stuff. Have you tried contacting Eltrons, for example, or some other ETs out there? Um, with the sessions, I moved my work to remote, so it's more like I'm not sure if you've sent me an email with your information of something you want to look into, but we can definitely look into some of the blockages and other things that are getting in the way of your, Ubis. It's definitely a thing. Kim, yep, I remember your case. Succubus issues, right? A lot of beings really getting in your way. Anthony Joe's asking, where's Rich these days? Um, he's working on his own projects right now. It's kind of like getting over the shadow banning of YouTube and stuff. He really has a lot to say and wants to express himself. But like where he is right now, he is able to do his awesome rants, but at the same time trying to be careful to not catch shit from YouTube. So there's a lot he has to say, but having to sort of like put a lid on it and not be as expressive is really hard. So Rich can talk it up, and he has some videos ready for y'all. It's just that a lot of this shadow banning and like he makes a video and 40 unsubscribes, and it's just complete bullshit. Like I don't know, it's bad. But yeah, he's okay. He's just working on his own stuff, having different interests and all. Yeah, Anna to you saying Dr. Robert Morse is a good tool for that. Also, he's in Florida, USA. Definitely. If you have any issues regarding health and stuff, check out Dr. Robert Morse. He has a lot of great information on YouTube, constantly like answering questions, and you can always find the great explanation of what's going on to you and why and what can you do about it. So yeah. Xulu saying, like, I remember watching Rich 150X every day, and it gave me so much comfort and relief during my fear of hell time. He explained everything so well, and he saved me. And Rich, the man is here. Come on.
Oh, cut it out.
Come on. Come here.
What the hell?
we were just reading comments.
Yeah, I heard you talking about me.
Read this.
What?
Come on, like, read this one. Xulu is saying.
I remember watching Rich 2150 every day, and it gave me so much comfort and relief during my fear of hell time. He explained everything so well. He saved me.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here he is. What's Rich doing?
Yeah. I was just watching Davey 504 plays bass.
Yeah, bass guy.
That's all. Earlier, I was researching some ways, the size and shape of the Earth. Still haven't decided what size and shape that is.
It's great. People
Yeah.
love seeing you.
Yeah.
Say
Well,
hello then.
I just came in to say hello to Akvile. Just give her a little thumbs up for saying nice things about me.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect her to drag me on
Oops.
camera right now.
Spotlight. Okay, you can go. I'm gonna turn off the camera for you.
No, thanks.
People like your beard, Noel.
Oh, good. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Okay, so that's a story about Rich. Yeah, thank you all for giving him so much attention. He definitely needs it, and it really helps. Okay, so First Contact is asking, here's a question. Are angels just a realm being or thought created reality being? I don't know. I don't do religion in any way. I'm guessing it's another spiritual con. I'm curious. Thanks. So, angels, archangels, and other ETs and stuff like that, like, they're all like more like reality being. They're all out there, but at the same time, we create everything. Like everything you see, everything you imagine, you are the creator, and well, I'm creating each and every one of you here on chat and stuff. You create me, and so angels out there, like, they are the beings out there themselves. Like, you know, even if you were not looking and like not really in the know, they would still be there without you, and you know, even if none of the humanity would be here, they would still be out there. But at the same time, when we think about them and stuff, we can really manifest them really fast or attract them and really get connections. So there's that. Okay, John Roberts is saying, I grew up on a meat farm and was basically a meatarian. I just cut out the red meat and the first and did that for a while before going vegetarian. Wow, John Roberts, that's quite a lot. So how's it going for you so far? Like, these changes in your diet, and how's your body handling it, and how are you holding up on this whole thing? Xulu is also saying, I really do believe Rich embodies the beauty, richness, and kindness and wisdom of reincarnated galaxy in a human form. That's exactly right. Dimitar is also recommending Dr. Michael Greger. It is very good. We'll have to look him up. I haven't heard about this guy. Okay, so I'm just like slowly scrolling down. Hi Dido, good to see you here. Yeah, I'm just like looking at all of your support for Rich. It's just awesome. Uh, Timeless Soul is asking, why do people say that you get stuck on Earth if you don't go into the light and basically stuck as a ghost? I think it's just their perception and beliefs. It's more like they so assume like the light is the only way, the tunnel, to go through things and get like transmuted and to move on and stuff. And it's more like not exploring more beliefs and ways of what can happen. So just their own belief systems. Whatever they heard, whatever they read, it's their thing. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go there. Sunny Days is saying, I've been plant-based diet since 2012. I feel good, heal quick, I do a lot of raw food and fresh green juice. Awesome. Yeah, John West is saying that, he is posting a lot of comments on the Rich channel, but like sort of like getting, like no notice, or like sort of getting blocked, and also a lot of people are having trouble with his main channel. And yeah. Like I know, like for example, some people from my channel get sort of like unsubscribed sometimes, and they have to resubscribe and look for my stuff. But that's like on a rare case scenario, I guess. With Rich, 36,500 people, and every video is like minus 40 subscribers. That's pretty horrible. Seth is asking, what was my favorite past life that I can remember? Huh. I would have to like focus on those things now, because don't really have something that stands out too much right now. I think something that comes up right now, like at the moment, what I feel right now, there can be plenty, but like right now, I feel like from one of those past lives is basically um, like massive world, but being able to go underwater, like in this kind of like human form, but at the same time, there are no difficulties breathing or into limits of how deep you can go and like body limits and stuff. So just like going completely underwater and exploring all of these like fishes and animals down there, like just being close to a shark and being able to touch it and look into its eyes and see the consciousness within and sort of like connecting with beings there, for me it's like really amazing. And the whole experience like was really kind of like heartwarming, just like having this massive connection with various beings out there. But that's just like what I sort of like come up with at the moment. There's plenty more, and I don't know, just sort of like pops up right now as a thing. John is saying that he would shower Rich with positive comments, loves to show his support for him. That's great. Infinite Corridors is saying, I feel certain that eventually our souls, spirits get free from this realm and we get to move on, even if it takes a few more or several more lifetimes. No reason to live in fear or worry too much. Exactly, like a incarnation or like getting back here is not a must be, and the whole freedom is out there, so I'm glad you're sort of like keeping it open for yourself. Kim is saying that like he's getting nowhere, still constantly being touched, communicated to, harassed, he doesn't know where to start. Like only that like his dreams have been horrible since he was in the kindergarten. Kim, I'm glad you mentioned this. Like when we worked before, I did not know this fact, but like just now that you're telling me that like hey, it started like way earlier, it's a really good thing. Because a lot of times issues we have right now, whether disagreements or other things, we're looking at something right now, and there's going to be something deeper if we're not aware of it. So, you looking into this and like knowing that you've actually had this going from like let's say when you were a kid, could you I don't know like write me an email, let me know like when did it all start? Like when you were a kid, right? But like specific time, like when you were 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. What kind of dreams did you have? What happened? How did your body react and all this stuff? Because like for example, we're touching the present time, but issues will be much more deeper at the beginning. And since we're not touching that thing, we're not getting anywhere. So of course, that's like one of the biggest issues. People wanting help and not giving enough information or the exact information. It's like, oh, just like I have a headache. When did it all start? Well, when did you get your headache? What happened? Why did you get your headache? All of these things really matter and stuff. So it's definitely a thing. Okay, Lewis is asking, Akvile, is it possible that my feeling I have now to have the right girlfriend to be happy may be right and my next goal for happiness? I'm so different, I often pray for an ET girlfriend. Yeah, there are like plenty of beings out there that we have connections with, and for example, you might be from way out of there, and like coming here, it's like you can't relate to anyone. It's like coming here, like, oh, where's my real mates, you know? So it's totally okay to want to connect to some other ETs out there because you might have more lives with them, you might have more connection, understanding, and stuff. So it's totally fine. With these goals, you have to like make sure like it's what you want and not something programmed to sort of like keep you doing something in life and all. But yeah, like it's okay to have these feelings, like no worries. Okay, so John Roberts is talking regarding his diet, that he's doing good. He was 260 when he was 23 years old, and now he's about 155 and really in good shape. Currently, he's vegan, but keep up on the B minus vitamins, and also definitely recommended vitamin C flushes and fasting. That's great. Thanks for the recommendations, John. Seth is asking that he watched the video. We're saying that like that being gay means you possibly got birth bumped into the wrong sex. Is it true, or is it just a natural thing that occurs? Having these sexes where you have where you have interest into being gay, into being lesbian, or all these things is totally fine. In our past, as we have done it countless of times with plenty of other beings, so there might be times where you might try to be messed with if it's, let's say, against their own standards and they push you and now you're sort of like trapped with that attraction but you can't go anywhere. That's just like one kind of scenario, but there are plenty of lifetimes where you will have same kind of sex appeal and it's totally fine and it's totally natural. Out there in multiverse, you will see plenty of beings, like even reptilian can do the same thing. So it's okay, like don't worry about it sort of thing. It's more like, do you have any difficulties with it though? Like being gay, for example, do you have any difficulties to face, like regarding, let's say, finding a mate and like expressing yourself or other things? If you have any difficulties, that would be something to work on. But just because you're gay, there's nothing to worry about. Okay, Christian is asking, once when being out of body with the bicycle... Wait, okay. Once when being out with the bicycle, I got hungry. I told the body, why not eat the bacteria in the body as you have the ability to do? Okay. And from that point, the body did not care anymore what he fed. Just quality matters. Okay. That's the way. Marcel is asking, what do you think about like healing techniques like Reiki, Theta healing, quantum healing, and stuff like that? I think it totally works if you set your mind to it. If you are working with it, it's like a muscle. It's not like you do it one time and yay, it's like you feel massive results, but it's definitely a thing. Like I've tried it myself. I don't put a label on like what kind of thing it was, but simply like kind of like energy work where I visualize a person with like let's say I visualize a person and he might have a cold, he might have a headache, he might have other things, and seeing the person right in front of me, I visualize his body and like I have, let's say, cellular level, like all the like bone structures and everything else, and I'm sort of like have several layers how I see the body and stuff. And as I'm scanning, I will like find these darker clouds and other things, and simply removing them from the body and kind of like cleaning everything up and basically working like a 3D printer, like we're layer by layer going from head and like every single bit, like just kind of like scrolling down and stuff. But doing this kind of thing, I work on like I don't know, like the person for like 10-20 minutes, or simply just like meditating and focusing on it. And next thing I call the person like, hey, have you fought any changes and stuff? Like, yeah, just headache disappeared and this happened. Like next day the cold is gone or something. So like, okay, coincidence or not, I don't care. I did my work and I believe it works. So there's that. Like, I definitely believe that like these things like quantum healing, theta healing, Reiki, and all, it definitely works. Liberty is saying, I can feel that once I can achieve out-of-body experience, I will not want to come back here again. Liberty, if that is one of your fears or concerns, or more like, like, hey, you really want to go out there, but like, when I'm out, I don't think I want to come back here, it will be one of your limiting beliefs or something that gets in the way of you getting out for real. Like, if you really want to achieve that, but like, once you're out, like, you have the freedom to go away, do you really want to come back and stuff? It makes you kind of like, I feel like I should go back. I mean, like, dropping the body, like, all of these thoughts and stuff, all of a sudden, it's like pulling a rope and pulling you back here. So, addressing this thing, not wanting to come back to Earth, or not wanting to come back to physical body once you get out, will be a thing to address. A lot of people have this. A lot of people have this, let's say, fear of dying out of the body, or like not being able to come back, or like going out there like, oh shit, I have people I love and stuff, I have relationships, and I can just go. I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, like, we have made promises and stuff, and I want to keep them happy, and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, you're not allowing yourself to be fully free. You're not allowing yourself to even visualize stuff, because if you could, you'd be out of here so freaking fast. And the person's like, oh my god, I've just lost my someone. Like, it's definitely a thing. So I'm glad you bring it up, because it's definitely, like, one of the things that, like, keeps us here. Our beliefs regarding this world and how we, like, stick here and stuff is big. Andres Verdecker is asking, what about enlightenment? Is it something real or just another belief system? Depends what exactly about enlightenment. Like, what do you want to know about it? Because, like, I don't know, like, enlightening and, like, just sort of, like, finding information, we grow all the time. Every single lifetime, every time we do something, it's, like, more, like, constant growth. That's what the conscience is about. Like, just basically experiencing as much as possible and everything. So, they actually basically, like, I don't know, like, it's always like a constant growth thing. So like enlightenment is just an everyday natural thing. Melina Murphy's asking, in my first session I found out I got here via Soul Trap. After the agreements were revoked and my clones were destroyed, what happens to my fifth dimensional self? Or does a Soul Trap mean 5D self goes to the 3D? It's more like if they capture you in the fifth dimensional, like, so like your consciousness, your aspect that you were captured with, and is being shoved into the 3D, then that aspect that was in 5D is sort of like being squished, pushed like into the 3D, and now you're stuck here. So once you're done out of here, like you go back, like, oh, okay, out of Earth, you can go back into the fifth dimension and not come back. So it's pretty much like that aspect of you was taken from the fifth dimension and then like pushed down into the third one. A lot of times, ETs from higher dimensional like places are being pushed here into the 3D, and then they don't really have a way to go back, or like, oh shit, how do we get back? And like sort of like stuck here in the physical. So it's a thing that does happen. And Tayokan is asking, Akvile, have you looked into the astrology and have you seen any evidence to compare with your experiences? I'm also an excessive dreamer since 5 years old. With the astrology, I'm not much of a thing there, but just recently, like, I think, like, I don't know if it was you, but someone from the comments told me to look up my sort of like birth chart, and I sort of like just checked out just a few sentences and stuff. It pretty much like matches with the character and like what I'm like. I was like, whoa, like that sort of relates. But I just looked at a few things and sort of like, okay, done now and back there. So like, I haven't done too much of a research regarding the astrology and stuff. Maybe I should, but I don't know. Not going there yet. Anthony is asking, do you believe in deep underground military bases? Yes, I definitely do, and there's plenty of them. Darshap is asking, have you done my session? No, buddy, I haven't. Sorry about that. Tony Red is asking, do you know what happens to consciousness if a person is cloned? Like, what happens to the cloned consciousness after they die and vice versa? Sometimes, like, let's say they can capture us, like, capture consciousness and sort of, like, clone our astral or something like that. And with all the stuff, with all these clones, it's more like the body can work like a voodoo doll. So, for example, whatever happens to your clone, whatever's being done, you can actually feel the physical results and effects. So that can be used against us, but it's not like if they clone us, their consciousness stays there. It's more like they create the body, the vessel that is sort of like has this physical relation to you, and then you know like how with the elite, how they can clone their bodies, but basically use their technology to sort of like take the consciousness and move into the body. For example, with I think the whole Hollywood, I'm not sure which celebrity and stuff, but basically the elite cloned her and they were fucking her, but each time they would fuck her, they would take her consciousness, shove it in the body to sort of like gather up more illusion, like sort of like more effects and like motions after that, but it's complete torture. So that happens. Our consciousness does not get cloned. From my experience, it's not much of a thing. It's more like they can clone the body, they can sort of like have spiritual signature, kind of like as in like your energy, your scent, your part, but it's not that like they clone your consciousness and now they can affect. It's more like you can create the double. You can actually split and stuff, but it's not much. The only thing I can actually think of regarding that is consciousness splitting. It's not cloning, but splitting into different aspects and then sort of like minimizing your abilities, taking away your happiness and other things, and all of a sudden you lose parts of yourself. So that happens, but that's more of a consciousness split than actually cloning. Anthony is asking, with joint alien and humans working together, if so, why don't you check out an Ubi's state, and would it be dangerous if you attempted it, and do they have the technology to capture your energy? A lot of times, I'm not specifically like clear, like are you still talking about the military like underground bases regarding aliens and humans working together, or is that like another subject? But with that, no, like sometimes they can have Faraday's cage to try to block us out. That sort of like happens sometimes. Not much of a thing. Capturing our energy sometimes, depending on beings and our awareness, not much of a thing as well. Yeah, like I do check out like where aliens and humans working together is like almost an everyday Ubi thing where like people have secret space programs and stuff, my labs. So it's like just like, hey, what you did on the ship, and you can see the whole scenario. So it's pretty common. Liberty are watching commenting on the Ubi thing that he does not feel the fear, but actually hate being here, and he's bored that so bored that he want to leave. Okay. That would also be a thing. Being so bored that you want to leave. Sometimes this works like a double-sided coin where, for example, wanting to sleep, you know, like how you've had a long day and you're like, oh, just like sort of relax, and you're like, yay, finally, like asleep, you're getting your rest and all. And you wake up earlier in the morning and you're like, I just still want sleep. And if you get out of body, that other part is like, I still want sleep. So like your consciousness, your awareness falls asleep on you. And at the same time, like being bored of this place so much that you want to like sort of like go out. Even if you're out there, being bored of that place so much that you want to go and you come back here. So like a lot of our beliefs and how we feel about things can be the opposite trigger for not being able to get out. So like exploring these things might help. Eddie's saying, when I see people on their phones, I see energy vortex going from the phone to their head. I stop using cell phones because of that. Totally, mate. It's definitely a thing. People using their phones is a thing. Entities all around us is a thing. It's there's so much going on that people like most are unable to see it, and I wish more people had that kind of sight. Roberto Perez asking, is karma real or is it something limiting to us? Pretty much like karma is a made up thing. Right now in the 3D physical universe, it's more of a trying to control us, like saying, if you do this, then this gonna happen and stuff. It's kind of like cause and effect. But the thing is, it's more like either our own choice. Like, okay, I did something in my past life. For example, people have these like things like regarding sexuality. So like you spend few hundred years, few hundred thousands of years, like just like satisfying all of your sexual fantasies. Okay, you're done, gonna move on. All the beings that you have fun with, how do they feel about you? Were you good to them? And do they kind of want to get back at you? Or no? So it depends, but like here it's more like trying to rule us with these limitations and trying to scare us and like having us agree to things. So in the physical universe it's more of a limiting thing, but in the other places it's more like a, hey, cause and effect, and you can actually do things, and if you're not careful you will have people coming back at you. So there's that. Timeless Soul is saying, I get really angry when I think people can do bad things, but there are no consequences when they die. Yeah, and at the same time, that's why the bad guys are winning. Because they have no fear or limiting beliefs. We're like, oh shit, if I do something, I'm gonna go to hell. Oh shit, if I do something, there's gonna happen this and this and this. So we have constant beliefs and worries and concerns of what can happen if we do something in life. All of these like moral things in our lives and how we're dealing with this and what we're being programmed ends up in how we see our afterlife. And a lot of people like, oh shit, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that, and like so they sort of like constantly put themselves like, kind of like limiting, like she should go, like this should happen, this should happen. Bad guys, they can kill, they can rape, they can sacrifice, they can do all the other stuff, and simply a lot of people can go to the store and get some chicken and stuff, and like how some people here on Earth carelessly will eat meat. We don't give, like most people don't give a fuck about animals. Oh, just like, okay, thanks for the food. Nothing. Elite and other guys see us the same weight. We are nothing more than the food. So what's wrong with killing it for your own like satisfaction? And they just go in and like, oh, I'm just like, what? It's just food, and they can mess with us because they have these kind of beliefs. We are all of a sudden like religion and all kinds of belief systems and idols and other things, and all of a sudden trapped in this box of beliefs and like, oh shit, consequences everywhere. So like bad guys, just because they don't agree with their stuff, they have different kind of point of view. No stopping. Antago is also saying I have like certain sets of dreams that seem to pick up from where I've left, and it seems like months or years apart. Yeah, I know the feeling. It's more like a, you know how like if we play video games, we can play the game to a certain point and then we save like checkpoint, okay, log out, and you do whatever, and then after some time like oh yeah, and you're gonna go play the game and you basically load the game from where you left off and do the same thing. Other worlds out there can have the same settings where you log in into that kind of body, you live your life for however long, and then oh, I have to go back. My physical body's like waking up and like I'm being pushed out. So I can like save the game or like save the life. You go here, you live and live and live, and maybe a few months pass, a few years pass, and you're like, oh, I'm back here again. You basically logged back into the body and continue the experience. Like there's a lot of the realities where you can continue from where you left off, and it's a common thing. And I'm glad you're having this because sometimes it's like you get into more details and like, hey, you can finally put the dots together and stuff. So that's pretty good. I guess we're just like going through some of the questions and what people are talking about, and Seth is asking like, have I ever met an entity? I'm pretty sure they consider like elementals by most people if you want to label them. Yeah, there's plenty of them. I've seen a few, not that many, like 5 or 6 at least, but definitely saw them. Mm, Lewis and I think someone else was asking if I do predictions or if I look into the future of things that might happen. The thing is, like, I can do this, but I am not really interested in it because it's kind of like there are like tons of these timelines. So if you like, okay, today my world is like this, and then I have to go on the specific timeline. But then again, I'm checking like more like my world and what happens, and then oh, oopsie, like while checking, I actually got onto this like side world and stuff. So like, there's tons of the parallel universes and like getting it right is a thing. So like I'm practicing sometimes, but it's not one of my main interests. Like it's something like okay, like something to practice, something to work on to get like real details of where it can relate to a lot of people. But at the same time, it's like not much of an interest for me. Mm. Okay, so Soul Contract Remover is asking, I tend to daydream a lot and it gets stronger when I listen to music I like. So my question is, do we create worlds and beings while we daydream, or are we tapping into other realities and past lives? You can do both. You can daydream, and while you're sitting there visualizing things, thinking about things, you are definitely creating your own universe and putting it out there. But at the same time, sometimes it can actually like, oh, you just like start like seeing flashes and like, whoa, like it just comes at you. So you can tap into the worlds you've created in the past, or maybe someone else's realities and maybe your past lives, depending on what kind of information you get and all. But just like simple daydreaming will allow you to create things, and with that you can take it on a whole new level where you might try it, like interacting with other species, with finding more information and other things. It's totally a thing. So I'm glad you're practicing it and doing it more often. Anthony's asking, nano beings, do they exist because I think I can see them in my space? And are they in our body? I didn't know if I'm hallucinating or am I actually seeing these tiny little orbs up in light in space. Um, so, yeah, a lot of times we can visualize things and see them all over the place. Is definitely a thing. And at the same time, whatever we see, we're also creating it. Our imagination is I am creating things. So everything we're seeing, everything we imagine is our creation. While you're talking, while you're looking and stuff like that, like you are focusing, you are creating things. So whether you create things or whether you see things, it is the same deal. Like, don't try to put labels on it. Like, see, like, oh, is this real? Is this really a thing? Am I creating it? And is this a thing, or am I actually imagining it? And or is this actually a thing? Like, oh fuck, it's bullshit. Like a lot of these like labels with you are imagining things, or you are creating things, or you are seeing the real deal. Same stuff. It's just like trying to put the label so that like we would be more confused and we'd be like, oh, like no, like it's just my imagination. It's powerless. No, like it's not a thing. Like shut the fuck up. You can actually do a whole lot with it. So, yeah, I'm just like saying like these labels are not really good. So whether you are creating, imagining, or seeing things complete like as the same thing, you are manifesting everything around you. MSB is asking, how can I tell if I have archons or spirits with me? MSB, I think the simplest way is to look at your space, not really like what's up, but more like just like look through your life and things you have experienced. Do you have more of these like limitations, energy draining things? A lot of these, let's say, various headaches and Murphy's laws and other kinds of like, seems like people that come up in your life are like triggering you and stuff like that. There's a lot of these like side things going on that seem like natural, like oh, it's just a thing, but it's actually like a setup as well. So you can look at people around you, how they act, how they make you feel, if there are any triggers, situations and stuff. Like for example, you might just like be triggered by Murphy's law. So you're going on the street and or like maybe you're gonna buy your favorite donut and you're like, hey, it's my favorite donut, I'm gonna get it. And some guy comes and grabs the doll and you're like, motherfucker, and you like get really pissed off. Simple things like that we just call it like live, but at the same time there are like little things every day that sort of like try to trigger us and suck up illusion stuff. So it depends on what you're experiencing in everyday life and how you're feeling throughout it all. It's part of it. And then again, like in an everyday life, if I go out just to walk on the streets and stuff, whoever I look at, people have entities all over the place. So it's kind of like everyone kind of has entities on smaller, bigger levels, depending. Some of these can be just like a thinking processes, like just thinking about food or other things. There's variations. What's my favorite ET species I've come across? Huh. My favorite, huh? I would have to say organic spaceships. It's probably like one of the more interesting beings, but organic spaceships. It's like a spaceship, but fully sentient and completely organic. Like looks like you have doors and everything. It's not like it's just kind of like some weird gut thing, but like it's an organic craft, and the whole spaceship is sentient. Can't control every single mechanism. Can't contact any other beings and stuff. There's a lot to it, but these beings are very intelligent. I've had a past life of being one, so it's like really interesting to just see a different aspect of like, whoa, what's that? So that would be maybe part of it, like of the more interesting. Reptilians, like they're very common, but at the same time, I find them like raccoons. Reptilians are pretty much like raccoons. You can feed them, you can play with them. Sometimes they go dirty and out of hand now, but they're different, and there are a lot of groups that are actually just super intelligent and just like want to be this your super best scientist friend. Okay, Cosmos United is asking, I want to ask you something for such a long time. How do we know people's reactions to us are theirs or are the entity inflicted? It's definitely a thing. Like, how do you know, like, if we talk to a person, is genuine or is it more like entity controlling them? I think you can more find out by the outcome of your relationship. Usually it's easier to tell if it's someone close to you, because if it is usually entity inflated and they have more impact on the person you're talking to, whatever you're saying and the person goes stuff, usually the entities will always try to trigger a person. It's not like to empower them, it's not to make them feel better, it's not to like, hey, you're gonna have love and stuff and all. That would have to be the third part, like alien love bite thing, if it's like like sudden love, but then you still have a lot of triggers in between. But if it's entities messing with a person and you're looking if is it entities and stuff, entities will always try to trigger a person, whether the person does something to trigger you or like the entities are triggering the person you're talking to, getting aggravated, misunderstanding things, saying things out of the blue, like like you're just talking and stuff, and the entity will sort of like drop a certain phrase through the person's mouth, like, oh, accidentally said it, cannot get it back, but I just say the trigger phrase that the person really hates, and oops, just triggered a massive thing. So it does happen. So like you always have to look for, when you're talking to a person, how do they react, and basically, like, if it's negative, if it's really going sideways, it's kind of like ringing the bell, like, oh, there's an anti-influence, and simply while talking, you can sort of explore what kind of feeling do they have, what kind of emotions do they have, like stronger states and stuff. And once that shows up, it seems like you can put the label, like, oh, that's anger stuff, that's misunderstanding, that's being confused, that's like going blank, forgetting things, and all of these things, like you simply look at these labels on the personalities and that show up. And now when you know that label, you can actually sort of like, okay, entity cluster of this specific label of going crazy or overreacting on things, getting over emotional, too much psyching and just like picking up on things and like driving you nuts with all this like, oh shit, like how do you know about that thing? Like that happens. So like there are like, you know it's being controlled. But genuine emotions where you can actually connect on a deep level, where you like, it's not necessarily just love, it's more like, wow, I'm sitting next to you and it feels like, it's just so good, just not even talking, just like, wow, it just like feels really, really relaxing and all. So that's definitely a thing, like where genuine connection and all the rest of good emotions follow. But when people go nuts in one way or another, it's pretty much set up. And also following up on the other thing you said, or it can be sabotage from other people controlled by entities. I definitely experienced this. Regionalization, my mom super pissed off with me, a love bite everything. Yeah. It's like, some days, for example, you are living with your mom, for example, and you don't take out the trash, and your mom comes back from work, do, trash not taken, like, whatever, do, carrying on their stuff. And one day, like, wow, my mom didn't react on that. Next day, do, mom's coming back from work, like, what the fuck, why didn't you take out the trash, and blah, 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 you're the worst, you're useless, you can't do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and just goes overreacting on everything. You're like, mom, it's just trash. So there's a lot of these things, but entities can definitely set up, can like trigger these emotions, like amplify it, and like, okay, pissed off, going crazy, overreacting on things. This will be a pack, definitely. A lot of entities will come in clusters, so it starts playing with overreacting on things, getting triggered, getting pissed off, too much and stuff like that. So like basically, you're just like looking at these like labels of what kind of personalities show up when the person around you gets triggered, like whether it's your mom, your dad, or someone else. They just go crazy, and you're like, okay, this kind of thing. You basically put the labels on them, and then you can sort of like simply imagine clusters and just like sort of like vacuum them out, like get them to transmute and stuff, tell them to leave, lots of variations. But if you see that work on your mom, you can do it with everyone else. Basically, they go nuts, you clear their space, and all of a sudden they're doing better. So that was definitely a thing. And also another thing you can do with these clusters, you notice like, okay, these are like the minor minions causing these things. If you try to look for the who's above it, like who is ordering them to do these things, you can simply ask the question, like who's commanding you to target my mom and use her to piss me off, or like target, like to trigger me and stuff like that. And you know, you will get the answer. You will get like, oh, is this kind of being? You might get a flash, an image. I'm a thought, but then you can pick up of who it is and simply, okay, got done with entities, but there might be some higher ups who will try to get them back into space, like try to use someone else. So if you catch the higher ups, whether it is Grace or someone else, once they're out of the list, it's pretty much like, wow, like the person in front of you just changed so much. So that's entities and stuff. You can also revoke agreements. Like, let's say, what, like, how does your mom react? Like, what does she get pissed off about? One of the things, simple things that you can mention, because like we could do like I can tell you how to do the soul conjugation method, or like I made a video about it, but like sort of like with your item, with the issue you have with your mom, we could sort of like get more clear, more specific. Yeah, like Cosmo said, like he asked and received a name. So that's pretty good. Like it just works right away. Yep. Grace, it's so often. Just imagine like it's funny because like when you see people going weird stuff, and then kind of like, okay, Grace sort of like doing this whole thing. The way I imagine it is like, okay, Grace are just like trying to trigger you, push the buttons and affect your mom, for example, and they're just eating popcorn. Like if you are not reacting, it's like, oh shit, it's not working, and they start like smashing buttons and stuff. So there's a lot of variations, but like let's see. Okay, so being codependent, like mom being pissed off for you being codependent, or mom being pissed off for you using her money. And then basically for yourself, you don't have to do it on stream, for yourself, or like even send me an email answering these questions, but like what might be some of the reasons for your mom being pissed off for you using her money? What does your mom being pissed off for you using her money suggest? And, looking at these things, are there any advantages to your mom being pissed off for you using her money? Any disadvantages for your mom being pissed off for you using her money? Any, does it aid your survival that your mom is pissed off for you using her money? You're simply asking these questions, but as you're talking it out, you can definitely find tons of disagreements. And while you remove entities and other beings from her space, you can also look at the agreements that you might hold in your space that attract your mom to actually bash you for this thing. And boom, you can get it out of your space. One is like, she gets a bit like nicer about it, but at the same time, you might remove limitation that actually, hey, you actually find a job, you actually get tons of money, and you don't need to be codependent and stuff. So like, there's a lot of variations of how this can go, but a lot of these like issues that your mom might have with you, the way she reacts about things, your mom being pissed at you is a massive area. So you have to be like, okay, mom is pissed off about me for being codependent. Mom is pissed off about me for being, or like using her money. These are just two things. Sometimes I might not take out the trash. And, like a lot of these like little things will be specific item to address. And like each of them, as you tear away this whole cluster of like mom being pissed off. And you find out that your mom actually becomes like more carefree and like finally like living off and being happy with you, and at the same time you are able to remove your blockages on living life the way you want. So there's a lot of variations, but like just knowing that your mom is pissed at you for what, why, what are some of the things, and as you ask these questions you will see tons of these items to address. And at the same time, personalities of entities that your mom might have, for example, entities that will have this trauma or reacting and stuff like that. And the same side on yourself, where you might have like, oh shit, like I can't make money, or like I'm not like this and this and this, and you might have beliefs on your own end. So removing entities from your mom's end, your own end, can have a massive change. So like, yeah, there's a lot to it, and I have to read what you said, but still, just saying. Yeah, like your mom getting possessed. It's okay, Cosmos. Like, don't worry. The chat is for everyone, and I'm really glad you're able to talk to me. So talk it up. Don't be afraid to spam. I'm here for you. I'm glad you're talking and like are able to get it out and like look into your issues and able to deal with it. Like that's what we're about. Yeah, definitely. So like basically looking at your like how your mom reacts. This is the first thing. Like sometimes like, oh, my mom is getting possessed. Well, definitely there might be a being using her. So if you're able like, okay, who's possessing her? And you might get an answer and stuff. The thing is, every one of you is super intuitive, super empathic, and you can pick these things up. So each and every one of you can like notice these entities in your space by simply identifying the label of their personality. If people around you go nuts, you look at like, okay, what kind of personality do they have that shows up, that gets triggered and stuff. You can call it a label, and now we know there's an entity cluster there. But at the same time, we can talk to these people, we can talk to these entities, and find out like why are they doing this, who are they, who's above them. We could find the whole structure and like lots of information. And even when you're like, okay, done with the pawns, going at the highest one up there, and you can have all your answers and find out like why are they doing this to you, like why is it happening and stuff. And some might be like, oh, we're just here to teach you a lesson. Like, well, thank you, I think I've learned, I don't want this anymore. And so you can cancel your agreements or simply have a lot of these conversations, find out information that basically sort of expand your knowledge on how these beings work. And another thing, when talking to these entities, consider yourself being a life coach. Consider yourself being their psychologist, or like talking to them in a way where, hey, these beings are also messed up and you can really help them out. So while you are on the receiving end and getting the punches from their triggers, you're also there to wake them up. And while you can remove them, you can also find out what's going on and why, and giving them help. They're more like, oh wow, thank you for helping me, because I just woke up and I just realized that I was sort of set up for this whole session to mess with you, but I don't want to do this now, so let me help. And they actually might try to attack the entities on your mom's end and like remove them and stuff like that. There's a lot of variations, but you can literally get information from these beings and have some contact and like get info and just understand things much better. So like it's always interesting for me to do sessions and like, hey, I found reptilian messing with person. Okay, hello, what are you doing and why and stuff. So just having conversation, and all of a sudden you get better understanding of how things going on, and like that just I don't know, like it just always amazes me. Okay, Cosmos, so like you have like a lot of these things. Let's say if we were to remove agreements or like look into these like beliefs and stuff, feeling empty, always getting a guilt trip, having low energy, being marginalized, and also not liking people, not liking crowds. There's a lot of aspects and lots of groups, but there's just so many. So the best thing I would suggest for now is to, okay, you have spotted the area, your mom being pissed off, having low energy, like there's lots of areas. The best thing to do is like pick one area, whether it is regarding your health, your energy, whether it's regarding you having like getting a job that fits you, whether it's like how you feel about people, like or like not liking crowds and stuff like that, so you like kind of like social anxiety maybe, or just like just exhaust me and stuff like that. Lots of these things, but also like your mom being pissed at you and stuff like that. Tons of areas. Choose one of these big areas and break them down into why is your mom pissed at you, why do you have low energy, and all the things. And like from what I'm sort of like seeing just from the comments, what you're saying, I sort of like get the impression that you've been kind of like stopped in life a lot, can't do this, kind of like failing, trying, but sort of like maybe failing on sort of getting slowed down or getting blocked. You tried this and this and this and nothing works. So like constantly block, and it pushes a person into giving up, losing passion, and like, fuck everything, kind of like don't want anything to do. So that like might be a thing, I don't know, maybe I'm just picking up some weird stuff. But I'm saying like, there's a lot of things to do, and hey, if you want to book a session with me, you don't have to pay. You can, if you feel you get wins, you can literally like just sort of like, oh, hey, I finally got some wins after 50 years, so here's $20 and stuff. But hey, write me about what you're going through, what is your story, what have you been through. I can help you find your agreements, I can help you find the items that you've been through and stuff. I have a client list to take care of, but I'm totally willing to sort of like, once I'm done with the main stuff, I can sort of like take up more, and you're on the list. If anyone else here also needs help and just to talk it out, or simply have me help you find your issues and stuff like that, so that you would be able to deal with it, bring it on. So feel free to write to me, ask for help, I'm here for you. Just saying. That being said, that's a lot of talking. I'm scrolling up to where I finished off with more questions. What is up, people? Oh, Seth, it's same subject. Can you break contracts and agreements for loved ones? Is it similar for how you do it yourself? Totally, you can totally do it, and that's the best part. I've had this, like, for example, thing like there's a person I want to connect to, and like say it might be your classmate, it might be your friend, it might be your lover, doesn't matter, and you two have not talked for a while. You two have like, like, just like, it's been a while since we talked, and like it's totally not in common. So like I'm doing a session on this thing, like haven't talked to this specific person for a while, and I'm like, well, I don't know, like I feel like I'm being ignored, and maybe I'm too pushy, just asking for things, and like da 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 da, and like the issue is like having talked with this person for a while, and I'm just sort of like listing out my agreements and how I see my world and stuff. And as I'm doing the session, as I'm finding these agreements, boom, I get a call from this person. Like, what the fuck? So it's a surprise, but like like just me looking into my agreements kind of like has me touch with that person, and like they feel kind of like a change, and they might want to talk to me and stuff. But there's like one thing, you might see issues that your like people around you have. You might feel like like let's say Cosmo's mom is getting pissed off about things. Maybe she's getting pissed off like with a lot of things, and like she might have hold a lot of like the emotions within. She might be just too expressive and targeting Cosmos. She might have no one to talk to, and just like, oh, I'm gonna let it all down on Cosmos. This is my best way to do, like sort of like a download and stuff. So you look at her stuff like, okay, my mom being pissed, my mom having a hard life, and she has this ache and stuff. And again, like the way we do sessions for ourselves, the way we do sessions with like finding an area, breaking it down, being specific about what specific item and stuff, yay, we just got that. Same way we do it for ourselves, we do it with others. If your person has some health issues, okay, my blah blah has health issues. What kind? Is it a headache? Is it some, like going like maybe brain fogs, schizophrenia, other kinds of things like backache or like hard to walk? You just like look at specific, like, okay, health? What is it regarding health? Emotional stuff, getting too aggravated, getting too emotional, or like overreacting, da 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 da. Like you basically, again, big area, you break it down, you find these things, and once you have an item, you ask yourself a lot of questions. And one thing, you can revoke these agreements from what you see about the person. So like, oh, well, my mom or my brother is like this. Like my brother might not be able to make money. My brother might have limits in life, and he, I don't know, like just like can't pick friends right, and blah blah blah. These things, for example, right? So you can do things for them. That's just one way. You can also, okay, if I am my mom, well, my mom has so much work that there's no time to rest. My mom just can't rest. My mom is really exhausted, and like that's one thing from what I'm seeing. So now I'm getting into what my mom is like, and I'm like, okay, if I am my mom, I'm exhausted. There's no time to rest, and I really have to do a lot. And basically now you sort of pretend to be the person you want to work on, and you are assuming their aspect on yourself. And just being that person, you can remove their agreements from what you know about their world, and work same way. What you see about the person you revoke, whether you revoke it from, if I am, let's say, Seth, and I have some issues regarding this, then I am being Seth, and this is my issue, and like I'm revoking these things. So hopefully it like sort of like makes sense. But yeah, like Seth, like what you're saying, you talking and me picking things up, I guess. So yeah, Gabriel, you sent me an email. All right, I'll try to get back to you soon. Not sure if it's today, but like I got note that I got a session, like I got your email, so that's good. But the thing about social contracts is actually like, once you know how it works, you can definitely do it for yourself, do it for people around you, do it on the world. Like the world's being limited. There's tons of limits, and people are getting vaccinated, and there's like this push, and it seems like the dark side is winning. The dark side has everything right and stuff. Again, find a area, zero in on specific issues, address like the whole COVID thing, and you might actually make massive changes. Who knows? So I'm just sort of like saying that, but yeah, like you can get a whole lot with this method. And like I said previously, I just keep talking about is once you know how it all works, like once you are able to find the agreements, the thing is, just by spotting the agreements, you're able to wake up and sort of clear it out. The whole revocation process to make sure like you clear it out completely and nothing comes back. But once you know the basics, you can do it on the go. You can be driving a car, you can be making dinner, you can be sitting on a pot, you can go take a bath and stuff. On the go, whatever you're doing, you know the process, do it quickly. You don't have to go through every single step, but just take the main ones where command 5, where you basically revoke all reinstatement clauses. These are the agreements that come back after revocation. All the counterparty copies, other beings that will hold your agreement, backups, mirrors, and all the stuff kind of clear. And then all the possible implants, imprints, kind of things like that. So once you revoke like I think like command 12 and 5 by Cameron Day and also 4, if you know all of these, like just like 4 or 5 commands, that is enough to on the go do it quickly. And yeah, you can actually have lots of changes. So like once you know the basics, the rest is pretty easy. Eliana says that her cat passed away the night. I forgot to mention that. Oh wait, okay, wait. I'm trying to scroll up. Okay, you're asking. Sometimes I have vivid visuals with my eyes closed. Doesn't happen every day though. And your cat passed away that night. Damn, I'm sorry about that. One of the things, just like because I'm seeing this topic, if you are sort of grieving for your pet, like loving your cat, and maybe some people have a dog, some people might have like raccoon and stuff, literally with your out of body experience, or the same way we talk with entities, you can actually call out to them, like with your simply thought in your head. You simply think, hey, and you put your cat's name, your dog's name, or whatever, and you say like, whatever you feel to them. The thing is, like, these beings are super conscious. So when you want to communicate with them and just get in touch with them, whether it is an animal or someone else that have passed away in your family, like from like relatives and stuff, you direct it like, okay, mom, cat, whatever, specifically, you can put the message out there and have an intention like, hey, I want to talk to you and this is what I feel. And in your mind, you basically say how you feel, what you want and all. They're going to pick it up. They're going to pick it up, they know what you feel. And they can show up in your dreams, they can come and visit you, they can actually pull you out of your body. There's a lot of these variations. You can also, if you're alone or like you're feeling secure enough, you can basically, let's say, take a piece of paper, like this, for example, and just writing down your letter of like what you want to say to them. If it's a relative, for example, they can actually come up in your room and read what you have to say. Like, for example, like write a letter and just like leave it on the table or some visible spot, and the person can actually come over, like see what you have said and like, come up in your dreams or like sort of like communicate with you telepathically. So there's a lot of ways to communicate with the dead as well. So if you are grieving and you feel that kind of loss, you can actually contact them and get some sort of like feedback or just like know if they're doing fine, if there's anything going on and all. So just saying, if you want any kind of contact, that is totally possible. Anthony Jones is also asking, what game consoles do you play and what sort of games do you like? PC Master Race. But then I also use PS4. I have Nintendo Switch, but I only have like Zelda on it. I used to have Xbox 360. I kind of still have it. I kind of like ruined the that disc thing where you insert the disc, so that's ruined. But yeah, like I think like I've had most of these consoles, sort of like Xbox, PS4, and all the stuff. PC is still a favorite. PS4 has some exclusive games, so I play pretty much like everything. Mass Effect, Red Dead, Deus Ex, racing games sometimes, RPGs, multiplayers, anything works really, simulations and all. I'm pretty much all over the place. Okay, Harry's asking, does the entities has to do with karma? It depends. Some people, for example, in your past life or somewhere in the past, you had an encounter with beings and you pissed off someone. You might have like set off someone, or like something might have happened, or maybe you're doing your own thing and someone is like, hey, that person is an issue for us because they might know too much, they might be getting in the way, they got someone I love and stuff like that. Like like beings out there are same like people here, maybe different emotions now, but kind of like same story. And they might target you, and one of their ways to target you in the past is also like send the entity cluster to mess with you, to sort of like scare you and all. And you come here, and that entity cluster still has a mission to come and go mess with you. So there will be some of the entities from your past lives, but it's not more of a karma thing. It's more like a suppression thing, trying to limit you, trying to mess with you. That would be a thing. Yeah, Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 is the best. The rest is, I don't know. I don't like the others. The Fallout 4 has a great structure, more like recreating your own town kind of thing, your own buildings, but there could be much more to that. I'm scrolling up to see more questions. Louis also asked, like, Akvile, do you think love is the most powerful healing force, or you see things otherwise? Uh, if that's the label, I guess. A lot of times in other worlds, people might not call it love, but when they get close to you, you get kind of vibration where you haven't felt like this before, and it's like super warm. It's kind of like, whoa, just like blast you with this massive feel good state, like kind of like a, like you get like massive dosage of like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, where like it just like blasts you, but in this kind of like blissful way for like a long time, to the point where you can actually cry and like be like super happy about it. So like, it's, like if we would call that love, definitely it's totally a thing. It's really powerful. She was mentioning that he knows to be the most sensitive to the other energies, and this is the first time he's feeling uplifted and not drained by listening to a spiritual teacher, and he's heard them all. I'm really glad you're feeling something out of this. Like if any of you are getting some insights or getting some good information or simply feeling good because of this, I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that I can be here for you. Roberto Perez's question, like, Villa, you and Rich continue to find new ways to reblock from people, and if you do you have any wins? Remove blocks, okay, yeah. Some people, like, it depends. The thing is, like, for example, getting out of body is a massive subject. It's not like having a little headache or having a little, like, kind of body can't move that freely. Really depends on people. But the thing with blockages, like out of body experiences and other things, it really builds up a lot from our past lives. In the past life, where we might say, like, like, I'm stuck, I can't get out, like, you might be trapped in a room in a burning building, you're trying to get out, like, I'm stuck here, I'm gonna die, I can't get out, I can't move, I can't breathe and stuff like that, I don't want to die. It's like a horrific scene in your past life, for example. And okay, you come here, something here in this life happens, it sort of like triggers your past life memory, and now those things that have happened before starts playing in command, where you can't get out, you can't get free, you can't move, you can't do this, you can't do that. And all of a sudden, even though it doesn't seem like much of a thing, At the same time, in life, you might not move forward that much. You might like kind of be stuck in one place. Like I just like you try so much to like maybe to find a new job, maybe to get a better relationship, maybe to get something else going. But eventually, you end up like just like no matter what I'm doing, I'm still stuck. I can't get forward. I can't get wins. I can't get anything. Like it's a thing. So there's that. But once we start removing these things, it's like peeling onion layers. We remove one issue. Well, there's a 5 billion more left. Remove another. So like depending how much work you put into this whole thing, it might be a lot and depends like where do you find the core? Where do you find a thing that actually has most of the system fall apart and you can actually feel some wins from this? So it's totally a thing. Do people have wins? Yes, they do. But like, then to what regard are we looking? Like when it gets to getting out of body, some people actually used like just like one of like few things to revoke, and actually, the part where like okay, like actually like my beliefs are out there, and now okay, starting to do different methods, and boom, people are getting out of body. So like, it depends. What might work for one person might not work the other. What like we might revoke some agreements and you feel like hey I'm getting some wins, but there will be a raise that actually undoes it and like like some brilliance. So like I'm not sure if when we did sessions with you I had knowledge of brilliance or not, but something to look into is basically there is a race of like kind of like bird looking beings called brilliance, Prillans kind of thing. So brilliance, and these beings are pretty much like undoing all the work we do. So for example, you might work on yourself to clear out things, to get better, to do something in life. You spend your time, you spend your effort, and it seems like you haven't moved anywhere. Like I just worked so hard with people or by myself and nothing happened. Why? So there's this like race of brilliance who basically undoes everything. And you're like, and so we might not notice with this group, but like they are out there and they have quite the effect. So, like we can definitely check out for those. So yeah. There's a lot to do when it comes to getting out of body or specific issues. For example, you might have everything going easy enough, but ubis might be your biggest thing that keeps you here, because there will be someone who really does not want you to get out of body and stuff. So there's a lot of like variations of why you might have these blocks and what kind of blocks we have to remove to actually see some progression. Okay, so I'm also like seeing the question from Andreas. Who am I asking? The entities from inside or the person who gets triggered? I think it's coming back to the point where how do we tell if the person is being affected by the entities, and when we talk to them, who do we talk to? So if people around you seem to be triggered, you have to talk to their entities, not around yourself. You are a whole different subject, and you will have entities for sure. So if you have certain powers that you are triggered, for example, feeling anxiety, feeling triggered, feeling like, like I just have to rage and stuff. So find labels in your own regard of how you feel and how you get triggered. Put a label. And if you have a label, you can get rid of your own entities and talk to your own entities that cause specific feeling states. If you see stuff around the other person where they go crazy, where they go nuts, where they go pissed off, where they attack you regarding some like smallest things, you're like, okay, that person has entity cluster that makes them go crazy, that makes them target me. Okay, so entity cluster that targets me through that person. What's up? And you basically look like sort of like you don't necessarily have to look at the person, but that person's entities that has specific pattern, that has specific emotions, maybe like personality and stuff. Once you have the label on them, you know who you're talking to specifically on that person. But you can work on that person, you can work on yourself. Both work, and clear both just in case, because it's like you're clearing out the triggers from one person, but you have to make sure you're getting some of the stuff from yourself as well, so that this wouldn't keep happening, or sort of like recalling their stuff, sort of like getting them back to life. Okay, so like I'm finally scrolling down to the point where I'm reaching people reacting to where Seth mentions his brother and Cosmos regarding the support he's getting here. Now to Fallout 4 and so on, like New Vegas, Skyrim and stuff. Looking at these like topics right now. Yeah, Xulu, I'm living the life. Great work. Video games, anime, all this stuff, huh? Crazy. I'm really lucky. Liberty Airbrushing, you're asking if your soul actually agreed to have the parents you did being abused and tortured and all that. I think like it's more of like, not like you agreed like, hey, I want a dad that will torture me, but more like a lot of times we have a free will to choose where we're gonna go to, but it's more like it's like, yeah, you can choose your family, and then you go choosing your family and they birth bump you into the one they were actually, haha, I tricked you, motherfucker. And so you end up actually, going with parents that are really abusive, that are actually really bad and suppressing you in every possible way. So it's definitely a thing. Alright, so it's like usual. I've almost have streamed 3 hours. Like I find that I usually stream for like 2 hours 50 some, and wrap it up. So I'm gonna do the same thing today. I think we've been talking for quite a bit. I still want to get back to a lot of people on emails. So like again, I'll mention the thing. If any of you want help or need anything, ask questions or get to me, write me an email like villasav@yahoo.com. Look at the description below this video or other videos I have. You can definitely find my information. If you want to talk it out, if you have questions, if you have something you want to address or anything, reach out to me. I might not get back to you right away, but I do get your emails and I'm going to get back to you as soon as I can. And, I just want to help you out as much as I can. So that being said, thank you all for tuning in, for watching, for asking all these questions, for being here, for helping me form this awesome community. And I don't know, I feel super happy that I can do something for you, to repay you for all this attention and for all the support I'm getting. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up for this evening. I might stream tomorrow, we'll see, but I'm really happy that we can be here together, and I'm gonna wrap it up for now. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.